Okay. Is that thing on?
Yep.
Okay. Today I'll talk about the routine. The routine is my favorite subject. If we are to take back our system, first thing we have to understand is who we are.
Can't hear you.
Yeah, Lynn.
Can you hear me?
There you go.
Let me turn on my hearing aid.
Yeah, kind of soft.
Okay.
Sure.
First thing we have to understand is who we are. We do not live in a democracy. We live in a republic. There is a dramatic difference between a democracy and a republic. Our public officials want us to think we live in a democracy. In a democracy, all power flows to the people. People want your house, they can take your house. They want your life, they can take your life. In a republic, all power and all rights flow from the individual. Only the legislature, through all of the people in agreement, can take away one of your rights. And then they have to filter it through the Constitution and statutes. When it comes to public officials, and as opposed to citizens, the Constitution does not grant you anything. People, you hear people saying, well, I have these constitutional rights. No, you don't. You've got rights, they're not constitutional. The Constitution grants you nothing. What the Constitution does is it very specifically forbids public officials from interfering with certain specified rights. Aside from those, you can do anything you want to, unless you, along with the other citizens of this republic, have agreed through our legislature to specifically restrict our behavior in certain circumstances. It must be in black letter law. Public officials, on the other hand, they may only do what they are specifically authorized to do. When you deal with public officials, they will deal with you as if you're part of their group. We have a problem in Texas with examining trials, and I'll get to that.
With what?
With examining trials. But the courts have ruled, they ruled in a case, Troy v. State, that you don't have a right to examine a trial in a misdemeanor. Okay, so they quit doing examining trials. I said, okay, so what? What's that got to do with it? You don't have a right to examine a trial at all. But then again, you don't have a right to be arrested either. You don't have a right to be taken to jail. That's in the code. That's due process, and due process is something you have a right to. Public officials want to, they tend to believe that you are restricted the way they're restricted. No, that's not how it is. Going to the grand jury. There's nothing in law that specifically gives me the right to go to a grand jury. There's nothing that gives me a right to file a criminal complaint. But there is a statute that says it's a crime if I don't file a criminal complaint in certain circumstances. If I have knowledge of a felony that involves bodily injury and I don't report it, that's a Class A misdemeanor. But I don't have a statutory right to file a complaint. I have a duty. I can do anything I want to. I don't have a specific right to go to the grand jury. But there's nothing in law that specifically forbids me from going to the grand jury, therefore I have to do it. It is critically important if we're to take this system back, that we understand that difference. Public officials are talking to you all the time about the restrictions they have on you. Somebody's coming. But those restrictions there's restrictions they have on them. Those restrictions do not apply to you. So as we go through this, I'm going to talk about things that we can do. And it's going to come to your mind, well, where are we authorized to do that? That's the wrong question. Where are we forbidden to do that?
That's right.
If we're not forbidden, we can do it.
That's right.
I have stacks of criminal complaints against public officials. Get that right there. This is a complaint against the governor of the state of Texas. It's a big one. But if we have time, I'll go into how to construct one of these documents. There's a specific methodology that I've worked out over the years that works really well in building these big complex documents. But this has got about 30 criminal accusations against the governor. It's got sedition, 577-003, I believe. It's got depraved heart murder, depraved heart assault, official oppression probably 20 times. The question is, in a state with 29 million people, and all of them complaining about these executive orders that the governor filed, why is there only one of these? Where is everybody? Our public officials have done everything they could to make us believe that we're part of them. We are not part of them. When you walk into a courthouse, you are the baddest motor scooter in the building. I just walked into one today, and they're all on their tippy toes. Well, hello, Mr. Kelton. How things going, Mr. Kelton? Because they know I'm about to land on them like a ton of bricks. And there is not anything they can do. They know that I understand. When I walk into that courthouse, I'm the most powerful individual in the building. There's only one reason. I'm not a judge. I'm not a prosecutor. I'm not a bailiff. I'm not a prosecutor or a clerk. They're all public servants. Me? I'm the master of those servants. They forget that at their professional peril and at their liberty. I can get them put in jail if they're not careful. One guy files a complaint against the governor. The week this complaint went before the grand jury, the governor rescinded all of his executive orders. Now, I can't say that complaint is the reason, but I sure like to think it is. Actually, what I think the reason is, I keep telling everybody, you know, I'm a creature of statute. I do everything by law. But at the end of the day, you can never expect to win your case simply because you have the law and the facts on your side. To think so is naive. It is not that way now, never has been that way so long as we've had human beings as judges. You win your case if you have the politics on your side. All politics is local. The reason I believe the governor rescinded all of his executive orders is because when all this started, he's looking at the politics. What do? I got this pandemic coming. If I don't do something, I'll get blamed for everybody who dies from this. But what do? If I try to do something, I'm kind of getting into our founders' greatest fear. Our founders' greatest fear was a president. We had to have one, but he was considered the most dangerous guy in government. I addressed that in here. It's especially true in Texas. Move down a little ways. Under Texas Constitution, Article 1, Section 10, that lists our due process rights. 29, it should come true. This is my favorite quote. H.G. Wells, in his outline of history on speaking to the corruption of the popes during the Dark Ages, very aptly observed The giver of the law most owes the law allegiance. He of all beings should behave as though the law compels him. But it is the universal failing of mankind that what we are given, we promptly presume we are. And it is my purpose to demonstrate to them that they don't own this authority. We do. Come on down to,
Do you want to go back up?
go down. There it is. Bill of Rights accepted the powers of government in violent. Guard against the transgressions of the high powers delegated herein. The legislature, the founders were speaking directly to the governor. Only the governor can do what they're telling you not to do here. It's not the legislature. That takes the whole legislature. Getting anything done in legislation is difficult. Not the judiciary, because they can't write these laws. Only the governor is the one in a position to issue executive orders that breach the separation of powers. That was the purpose of the separation of powers clause. Keep everybody tightly controlled within their authority. The governor is the director of the executive branch of government, and he, like the president, can issue orders to members of the executive branch. If you are not a member of the executive branch, neither are you a member of the legislative or judicial. They all answer to you. You don't answer to us. The governor issued an order that said the schools had to close. What the heck is this crap? The schools don't belong to the state. They belong to the county. And the governor has nothing to say to the county. The Texas Education Agency, they have power over schools. Not this much. They can set test score requirements. They can require certain kinds of curricula. That's it.
Are charter schools different than county schools? Because they have a charter, do they have extra authority, power to act within that charter? Maybe the parents who set it up.
I cannot answer that question.
Okay, thank you.
I haven't seen the statute
Okay.
that authorizes a charter school. I suspect that they are required to meet the requirements of the Texas Education Agency. That's just academic.
Yeah.
They don't have it. The Texas Education Agency has nothing to do with the school buildings, the openings, closings, the management of the schools. That's all county business. We pay for those schools with our county funds. What the heck's the governor think he's doing? Telling the county what to do with their private property. The police, I charged him with sedition. The way I got there is the governor, like the president's given authority over the armed forces. So is the governor. The governor is given authority over the militia. Problem. We don't have a militia, state militia. So he created one. He co-opted the Department of Public Safety and brought them under his control and made them a militia and sent them out with guns to violate our constitutional rights. That under 557.003, that's sedition. You hang for that one. And the primary thing he did, he said, if you try to egress from another state to this state from places of my choosing, you have to arrest yourself for 2 weeks. Where'd you get that crap all by? The Constitution, the federal Constitution and federal laws are very clear. You guys talk about the right to travel. It's not what most of you think it is. Right to travel is a term of art. And it means the right to egress from one state to another state. They were telling all of the states that movement between the states is absolutely essential to economic growth. No state can regulate movement from one state to another state. That's travel. Movement in the state, that's locomotion. Whole different issue. So when these people come out and argue the right to travel, and the courts rule against them, it's, well, you're doing a wrong argument. So anyway, back to where we're going. One guy files against the government. What would happen if this whole room filed separate criminal complaints against the governor? All in different counties. Problem with grand juries. I have never got a grand jury to indict anyone. And I don't want them to. The grand jury didn't indict the governor, they no building. But he rescinded all his orders. I'll get to the presiding judge of criminal people appeals in a minute. She should have known better. What I did to the governor is I didn't care about this. I just set him up to use it as a crash dummy. If you're going to take on the system, first you got to understand who you are. Then you need to know what your purpose is. What do you want? At the end of the day, if you could have something in particular, what would it be? You absolutely need that. Because these guys are pros at sending you down rabbit holes. When I start talking about filing criminal charges against public officials, the problem is not finding criminal charges to file. You will find they are very accommodating. They will give you more things to file against them than you can keep up with. I had an arrest fee in the district attorney's office to keep me from filing criminal charges against them. Take me to jail, release me 26 hours later. Right now I'm up to 35 criminal complaints against them and counting. They will give you more than you can possibly get to. Problem is picking the right ones that lead you toward your intended outcome. If you don't know what that outcome is, if you don't know where you're going, there's a very good chance you'll wind up somewhere else. They will send you down this rabbit hole and then that rabbit hole, and you'll wind up with more fights than you can keep up with, not getting anywhere. I have a goal. Every single thing I do is based on that goal. It is my purpose to place every judge in the country in a position such that when they step up behind the bench, look out across the bar at the Galleria, I want them wondering, which one? Which one of those scoundrels sitting out there are waiting for me to render a ruling that he don't like so he can run down and try to get me indicted? Thomas Jefferson said, when the people feel the government, there is tyranny. When the government fears the people, there is liberty. If I could get one guy sitting in every courtroom, our problems with the legal system would simply go away. One guy who understands what I understand right now. I hope I can get a room full here. Most of the time, the only experience we have with the criminal justice system is when they're coming after us. It's frightening, it's devastating. Betrayal is the worst part. You go to your court system and you expect them to do all this stuff they told you about in high school. Well, good luck with that. I keep thinking of that song by Paul Simon, Kodachrome. After all the crap I learned in high school. Well, it was crap. Don't work that way. Now, it is very consistent. It does work a certain way. We just don't know what it is for the most part. The way it works is everything is political and all politics is local. Now, when I first stated laws, they're just there to kind of give us direction. At the end of the day, it's all politics. I didn't get all of these executive orders rescinded. The governor put these in place for a political reason to start with. He had to do something. But the pandemic didn't turn out to be as cut and dry as they expected, didn't turn out to be as bad as they expected, and now he's got his whole constituency really PO'd at it.
Absolutely.
Now we're getting into Joe Tailgate and his pizza and beer parties, and he is not a happy camper. McConaughey is running against the governor, and he's a Democrat, and the polls say he'll win.
Oh, gosh. You're kidding.
In a Democratic, in a Republican stronghold, he's likely to win. That's because everybody's PO'd, and he knew it. I come down there and I throw this criminal complaint at him, and he said, "Oh, thank you, God." Now he's got plausible deniability for tossing all these out. And that's kind of proven up because 20 other states did the same thing immediately. They were looking for a reason to toss these things. When I told you I set up the governor, I used him as a crash dummy, I really didn't care about the governor. I was after something else. I have a goal. And that's to put examining trials back in the system. It is my belief that the singular problem that has disrupted our legal system is subtle. They did it. Nobody realized the consequences of it. Our legislature, in their wisdom, decided that we have lawyers, learned counsel in public employ, and inferior courts, municipal courts and JP courts, and police, they need legal advice. So we can use prosecutors to give legal advice to the police and lower courts. Bad idea. It was a prescription for precisely the situation we have now. It was a disaster. Do you really expect public prosecutors to advise the police and lower courts in practices and procedures that will make their lives a living hell? And I'm saying nobody did this on purpose. There's not some really bad guy out there that I can demonize beyond all redemption and then rail at in righteous indignation. It would be easier if they were. If there were. But there are no bad guys here. This is everybody doing the best they could in the situation they had. Prosecutors were directed to give advice to the lower courts. Well, you would expect the prosecutor to advise the lower courts in practices and procedures that serve prosecutorial interest. They got this huge caseload they got to get rid of. So they had to work out a way. They don't have enough funds to trial these people, so they got to do something. They come up with this great idea. Let's make a deal. So they're dealing most of them out. I went to court this morning, to a district court, felons getting tried, and the prosecuting attorney made the comment. This is, we're a little clunky here, we're working things out. This is the first actual trial we've had in this court since March 2020. Do anybody here know what the average conviction rate for all crimes across the board in the state of Texas is? I bushwhacked Chief Acevedo when he was chief of police in Austin. They were having a hearing. He was trying to get him to authorize his policemen to take blood on the side of the highway. And I had 3 policemen come to me and said, "Can you go down there and do something? We do not want to take blood." So I caught him at the door with a portable mic and asked him, "Why are you trying to get this passed?" "Well, we want to increase our conviction rate." I said, "Well, Chief, do you know what your conviction rate is?" "Oh, no, I guess about 70 or 80%. No, I'm a little higher than that." "I don't know." I said, maybe 90, 95, 99.6. He said, no, that can't be. I got my statistician here, and he calls this guy over, big tall guy. And he asked him, "What's the average conviction rate in the state of Texas?" He kind of ducked his head and was so I said about 90, about 95, 99.6. Well,
A little higher.
we ought to be ashamed of ourselves. This is the worst police state on planet Earth.
Amen.
The Republic of Russia incarcerates 327 people per 100,000. The United States, 627. Texas, 750. We should be ashamed of ourselves. I think the reason it is they took one little piece out of law. 1406, 1516. Code of Criminal Procedure says if a policeman arrests someone for any reason, he is to take them directly to the nearest magistrate. Now, you don't have a right to be taken to magistrate. The law commands the policeman to take you there. That's due process. That's something you do have a right to. But what happens if they don't do it? What do? Make up a criminal complaint. And on my websites, see if you can pull up jurisprudence.website. You go to documents and research. I've got a whole bunch of them up there. I've got a whole one section on Cherokee County on it'll show you how to write criminal complaints. Texas is different than other states. Most states, a criminal complaint is headed like a regular motion of pleading in a court. Texas is different. Texas says all complaints shall run in the name of the state of Texas, and they must state that that the complainant has reason to believe and does believe. So I've got this form. Got under the authority of the state of Texas, something like that. Under the authority of the state of Texas, I, complainant, have reason to believe and do believe. And I got this section. And we explain in that section what we think was wrong. And then at the bottom of it, based on the above, complainant alleges that so-and-so violated such and such a law. That's it for criminal complaint. Take it to a magistrate, have them verified. Well, what if you file a complaint and you're absolutely totally wrong? No problem. When you file a criminal complaint, you hurt no one. As long as you don't outright lie. If you tell the judge something that's not true, but you had reason to believe and did believe it was true, you are absolutely protected. You have the same protection that a judge has. I write criminal complaints to these guys, and I come back to the court, and they are furious. But if they say one thing that I can in any way take as a threat, like, oh, Mr. Shelton, you really need to be careful. You start filing these complaints, you could get in a lot of trouble. 911, witness tampering, obstruction. You say anything that would tend to chill my testimony as a witness, that's a Class A misdemeanor. Depending on the charge, it could be a state jail felony. But go ahead. Give me a little unsolicited legal advice. Let me see how that works out for you. Yeah, I've got a number of rules that protect you. The first one is never give fair warning. Never go to a judge or a policeman and say, oh, you're supposed to do this, and you're supposed to do that, I got this right, I got right. No, don't do that. When you do that, they're going to construe you to be agitated. That's their favorite word. Agitated. Once someone's agitated, you don't know what they're going to do. So now it's time to get your hand on the pistol. So never give them fair warning. Bushwhack is so much better. I'm in Arlington, Texas, at the municipal court. And I asked this clerk, I said, I want to see 10 cause numbers. I had a friend that had got a ticket, and I added numbers to the front and subtracted from the back. I got 10 numbers. I want to see all these cases. She said, are you the accused? Oh, no, I'm a good guy. Well, are you the attorney? Oh, no. I sleep well at night, keep my asthma in my pockets. Thank you very much. And she said, well, if you're not the accused or the attorney, you can't see those. Oh, wow. You shouldn't have said that. The bailiff is standing over there, big guy. He's standing here surveying, just looking for somebody to step out of line. Hey, you, come here. He didn't like that. He come over, what can I do for you? Arrest that woman. Well, why would I arrest her? Goes to my second rule. Never make a proactive statement of law out of your own mouth. Can we back that up a little? Because when I step back 1 foot,
I know.
I get the
I
sun.
want another quote. I'll see if we can get another extension.
Oh, here, I just set it on this table.
Never make it proactive.
Never make a proactive law out of your own mouth.
Never state law out of your own mouth. Well, you can do this, you can do that, the law says you have to do this, blah, blah, blah. Never do that. I told this guy, arrest that woman. Well, why would I arrest her? Class A misdemeanor, official oppression, criminal violation, 3903 penal code. In that she failed to perform duty she was required to perform in the process, denied me full and free access to her enjoyment right. That's how you do what the law is. You give them the law itself. Don't make a statement out of your own mouth. Because what happens if you give them a statement out of your own mouth? That becomes fair warning. And to the court, it means nothing. The judge has 2 duties, and only 2 duties. Determine the facts in accordance with the rules of evidence, then apply the law as it comes to him to the facts of the case. If he does anything else that's not just administrative, I'm going to ask the bailiff to arrest him. If you have never asked the bailiff to arrest a judge in the courtroom, you just haven't lived. I'm in Conroe, Texas, the Republic of Texas group. The Attorney General and the President. I got this kid in jail in Conroe. He's been in jail for a month and a half. He's lost his truck, he's lost his apartment, lost his carpentry tool, he's lost everything. He's sitting there doing this stuff the Republic's telling him to, and he stayed in jail. So they asked me if I could do something to get him out. So I wrote this habeas corpus. Actually, on this website, move down a little bit. This is jurisimprudence.website. Right here, writ of habeas corpus. I wrote that writ of habeas corpus for this kid in Conroe. We went down there. I made these guys drive me down there, and I chewed them out the whole way. We get there, I get out of the car, and they just sit there. Guys, come on. I need backup. Oh man, I'm worried about going in there. Neither one of them stepped in that courtroom with me. So I went to the clerk, and
And who were they?
the president and one of them was, I think his name was the Attorney General for the Republic of Texas, Costa.
Steve Costa?
And who are the
He
president?
wouldn't go in there, eh?
Huh?
He wouldn't go in there, eh?
No, the chicken. Come on, get the chicken suits off. They wouldn't go in there.
The other one was Ed?
Huh?
Ed Brown?
Might have been, I don't remember.
No, it was before that.
Was it before that? Rich or somebody?
2007, I believe. Either 6 or 7. Because
He would pull it up.
this hangs around. I presented all the judges of the Court of Criminal Appeals to the grand jury with that. I'll get to that in a minute. So I give it to the clerk. And I ask the clerk, are you going to give this to the judge or should I do that myself? Habeas corpus is the great writ, the writ of right. Everything stands down before the writ. Whatever's going on in the court, it stops. And I was telling her that I knew that. So she told me, I'll give it to him, and she told me what court it was in. I went in there, they're holding a murder trial. They finished interviewing a witness, sent the jury out. He told everybody else, you can go or stay. And he said, are you Randall Kelton? Yes, Your Honor, I am. Did you file this habeas? Yes, matter of fact, I did. He said, are you an attorney? Oh, no, Judge. I sleep what at night, keep my hands in my own pockets. He didn't take that as funny as I did.
That's pretty funny.
And he said, well, Mr. Kelton, since you're not an attorney, I'm not going to accept this habeas. I turned to the bailiff. Mr. Bailiff, did you hear that? Yes, Mr. Kelton, I did. Arrest that judge. He said, I can't arrest the judge. Sure you can. Just go up there and throw the cuffs on him, drag him off to jail. You ain't got far to go. You got one round down the basement. The judge? He sat there and kept his mouth shut. I've done that 7 times in court. Once I did it 3 times with the same judge in Belton. The problem is, the bailiff is the court security officer. He is there to keep the peace. Makes no difference who breaches it. And I'm making a criminal accusation to the bailiff against the judge. Yeah, go ahead and open your mouth, Judge. 3605 witness tampering, 3606 obstruction. You see how that works out for you. Make no difference what the level or justification for my complaint is. The fact that I'm making one shuts his mouth. He's done that every single time. The judge in Belton, he was funny. He jumped up, clear the jury, clear the jury. Oh, it was great fun. And while he's going out, I'm arguing with the bailiff. In this case, I argued with the bailiff. He couldn't arrest the judge. Mr. Bailiff, I need you to take your chicken suit off. Now, that's not just funny. I always ask them to take their chicken suit off.
Take what up?
Their chicken suit.
Chicken suit off.
Whenever you talk to a public official, especially a policeman, always consider what I'm about to say, how will what I'm about to say play before a grand jury of my peers? They're going to want to call you agitated. So, was I agitated before I asked you to take your chicken suit off or after? It ruins it, and they know what I'm doing. They knew exactly what I was doing to him. And he was frustrated and infuriated. He wanted to crawl all over me, but I had it, and he knew it. The judge knew it too. The judge knew that I knew, or I wouldn't have done this. But one word out of you, and we all go to a grand jury. He refused to take the habeas. I took the habeas to the Court of Criminal Appeals, highest court, criminal court in Texas. Took it to the clerk asked me for a motion for leave to file. Say what? This is a habeas, the great writ, the writ of right. The court has no power to grant or deny. He said, well, I gotta have it or I can't accept it. Well, this wasn't my fight. I'm trying to get this kid out of jail. So I made up a motion for leave to file. They denied it the next day. Is that a fact, Jack? So I took that habeas and converted it into a 119-page criminal complaint against all 9 of these judges. I took it down to the grand jury. Oh, it was a circus. And came in with a camera crew, and they blocked me several times. So I bushwhacked the head criminal district judge in Travis County in his courtroom. And I have a methodology for this. If you want to file a criminal complaint and you want to get it stuck, put on a nice outfit, you want to look like a lawyer. So I go in a nice suit. You want to go into the court when they're having motion hearings. Motions generally take 30 seconds, 45 seconds. They do the same motions over and over. And they'll hear the lawyers are all lined up in front of the bench. He's hearing them right at the bench. And the judge was really great personality, laughing and joking with these guys. So I went in and pointed at the bailiff. You, come here. Well, they're used to lawyers coming in there and meek little lambs. And I come in here and summon the bailiff like he's an errant stepchild. Well, he was not a happy camper. He come over, can I help you? I said, yes, you can. My name's Randall Kelton. I always tell him my name first. But don't any questions. My name is Randall Kelton. Instruct the judge that I have business with the court. He said, may I tell him the nature of the business? No, you may not. I have business with the court and it's none of yours. You're dismissed. I go sit down. He's pretty furious, and that's exactly how I want him. He runs up to the judge, jibber, jabber, jibber, and the judge whispered back, looked out at me. I'm sitting here holding up this red folder. There's something about red folders. He just couldn't have it. He had to know what's in it. So he finishes his motion hearings. He said, Mr. Kelton, yes, Your Honor, I understand you have business with the court. I said, yes, Your Honor, I do. And I hold up this folder and say, may I approach? That means, can I give you this folder? We said, well, come on up. He was already here to do this. Set the folder on the bench, he opened it up. He's looking at criminal complaints against the district clerk, accusing her of secreting criminal complaints against the district attorney from the grand jury. And the complaints against the district attorney are for secreting criminal complaints against all the highest judges in Texas from the grand jury. And he looked at that, and I could see his whole career is flashing in front of his eyes. Oh, Mr. Kelton, these are criminal complaints. Yes, Your Honor, they are. Matter of fact, they are. Well, Mr. Kelton, you should take these to a justice of the peace. When I was a justice of the peace, I had criminal complaints. I said, well, I tried that, Judge. Evans across the street. He threw them in the trash. Well, you should take them to the sheriff. I said, well, I tried that too. He threw them in the trash. Well, you should petition for a writ of mandamus. I got a better idea. I ought to petition for a grand jury to indict him. But there's not a problem because I'm not here invoking your duty as a district judge. Well, he told me that district judges don't take criminal complaints in Travis County. So, well, that's okay because I'm not here to invoke your duty as a district judge. I'm here to invoke your duty as a magistrate, and that's a duty for which you may not shield yourself. He sat back in his seat, looked over at the bailiff, and I know what he's thinking. If I have my bailiff shoot this SOB. But he wound up giving it having me take it to the clerk. That's what he told me to do. I said, oh, no, you're supposed to send these to the clerk after you hold an examining trial. Well, I'm not going to hold the examining trial. You just give them to the clerk. So I went down to the clerk. Called the clerk out. I got these for you. She said, I can't take these. Yes, you can. Judge Bishop up there. Perkins. Judge Perkins. That Perkins guy on the 8th floor. He said you could. Well, this is not our job. Not my problem. If you got a problem, take it up with Perkins. See what back? You always got to interrupt. I was talking about him yesterday. I said really bad stuff about you. And everybody loved it.
I know. I apologize for that. The fault was for him.
Okay.
Your phone.
I took these complaints, I gave them to the clerk. She called the judge up there and accepted them. And then I took them to the grand jury. I took them to the grand jury's office. Got the bailiff there and told her my name's Kelton and I have business with the grand jury. She said, may I tell them the nature of the business? Yes, you may. Give them these. I give a whole stack of them. I had one folder for each grand jury member. And she looked at them, looked up, looked around, looked back down at them, and I said, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking I should call the district attorney. Bad idea. You need to give these for the grand jury. Well, she didn't. She gave the district attorney, her name was Claire Dawson Brown. Big woman, looked like everybody's grandma. She told me that, well, I don't know if we can accept these or not. Well, you need to read Article 2.03 Texas Code of Criminal Procedure. Everybody should write that down.
Say it again.
2.03. Only Texas has it.
Criminal procedure.
Texas Code of Criminal Procedure, TCCP. 2.01 says the prosecuting attorney, it shall be the primary duty of the prosecuting attorney not to secure conviction, but to ensure that justice is served. He shall not secret evidence or witnesses that would show the innocence of the accused or mitigate the guilt of the accused. Well, that's a lot of high-minded rhetoric, but it really doesn't tell the prosecutor to do anything specific. 2.02 says the district attorney will handle this stuff, the county attorney will handle this stuff. 2.03, the very first one that gives the prosecuting attorney a specific duty. a little long and convoluted, so I'm going to paraphrase you. It says that when a prosecuting attorney is made known in any manner that a public official has violated the law relating to his office, he shall reduce the complaint to an information and submit it to the grand jury. Zero discretion. No prosecutor should be put in a position to have to determine whether or not to prosecute somebody he works with. So the legislature understood that and they fixed it. They took that power away from him. So I very regularly set up prosecutors to get them not to do that. They all think they will not do that. And when they don't do that, then I get to go after them. I file lots of criminal complaints. But I have a rule. Never ask a public official to do anything that you actually want them to do. Because you never ask a public official to do anything that the law does not compel them to do. I apologize for that. Never ask a public official to do anything the law does not compel him to do. Because when he doesn't do it, you get to pull out 39.03 Texas Penal Code. That's a catch-all. Everybody should have that memorized. 39.03 says that if a public official exerts or purports to exert an authority he does not expressly have, or exerts or purports to exert an authority he does not have. I'm sorry, let me step back again. A public official fails to perform a duty he's required to perform, or exerts or purports to exert authority he doesn't have, and in the process denies the citizen in the full and free access to or enjoyment of a right, well, that's a Class A misdemeanor in the state of Texas. I'll show you how much fun this is. We asked the judge, when he rendered a ruling in the district court, to provide findings of fact and conclusions of law under Rule 297. And Rule 297 says the judge shall produce findings of fact and conclusions of law within 20 days. 21st day, it says if he doesn't, then you can file a notice of late filing, and he's got 10 more days. But on the 21st day, we filed a notice of late filing. And we filed criminal charges with the grand jury for official oppression. I bet you didn't see that one coming. The case law says under Packer v. Walker, Walker v. Packer, a judge has no discretion in properly applying the law to the facts. A failure to do so is an abuse of discretion. An abuse of discretion that denies a citizen full and free access to enjoyment right, well, that's a Class A misdemeanor in the state of Texas. All these judges say, well, if you don't like my ruling, you can appeal. I say, yeah, I can appeal. I can appeal the Court of Appeals, or I can appeal the grand jury. Have you indicted? We see how that works for you. Only you can do that. Prosecutors can't do it. Trial lawyers can't do it. If you hire a lawyer to represent you in a criminal case, he is going to throw you under the bus.
Amen.
He has no option. If he doesn't, the court is going to clobber his next client. I sued Denton County for $11 million. I sued 24 litigants, all of them public officials. I talked to 60 different lawyers. The last one was Jerry Cobb. He was the prosecuting attorney before the one I just sued. I get him, I said, hello Jerry, my name's Randy Kelton, and I have sued Denton County, and I need a lawyer to represent my case. Well, I can't represent your case. You made allegations against judges in there, and I have to represent clients in this county. I said, what's the matter, Jerry? You afraid those judges will screw your next client and get back at you? He said the same thing every other lawyer said. You damn right they will. Now, I don't know if that was true or not, but I do know that every lawyer I've talked to thought it was true. So I might as well. If you ask your lawyer to do anything that's going to annoy that judge, he's going to tell you, screw you. I'm not going to ruin my career, my practice, just to get you off the hook. So what do? You bar grieve it. When you bar grieve your own attorney, or better yet, bar grieve the prosecutor. When you bar grieve the prosecutor, doesn't matter which bar grieve for. I want to bar grieve the lawyer for parting his hair on the left.
For what?
Parting his hair on the left.
For what now?
Parting his hair on the
Oh,
left.
oh.
On the wrong side.
Right on the right. No good Roger Shyster, he should be disbarred. I talked to the lawyer 6 months later. He saw me in the courthouse. You're the one that did that. What? You bar grieved me for parting my hair to the left. Yeah, I did do that. What'd you do that for? What if I'd have bar grieved you for what you really did? They might have disbarred you. If you file a bar grievance against a lawyer, the state bar is going to get that grievance and they're going to throw it in the trash. And they're going to send you this letter back and say, we examined your accusation document does not rise to the level of this conduct. Makes no difference what you find. That's a good thing. The reason it's a good thing is their insurance carrier knows they're going to throw it in the trash. So how does their insurance carrier gauge their level of risk? Like out of bar races? They can throw it all in the trash. By the numbers, there are 9 underwriters for errors and omission policies in the United States. All of them are underwritten by Lloyd's of London. They all got the same policies. 1 bar grievance your first year of practice. Valid, invalid, they don't care. They cancel your malpractice insurance immediately. 2 bar grievances in your 1 year of practice, they cancel. 3, they'll cancel your law firm's malpractice insurance. Valid, invalid, they don't care. My co-host is helping a woman in a foreclosure issue. Had her on the show last Friday, and somebody mentioned bar grievances and are they effective? I said, Brett, in Peggy's case, how many lawyers are you at now? He said, well, I'm at 10. He bar grieved the lawyer, poof, they disappear. Has to go get another one. Guy in Georgia called in. He got a land patent on his property, took it off the tax rolls. They taxed him anyway, sold his property out at a tax auction. The guy who bought it had a lawyer send him a letter that he was going to repossess the property. He bar grieved the lawyer. 2 months later, he got a lawsuit written pro se. He was chuckling and laughing. He bar grieved that lawyer hit the road, and she couldn't hire another one. That's the lawyer's weak underbelly. Policemen, T-code complaints. Most states call it POST, Police Officer Certification and Training, but in Texas they call it T-code. Texas, what's it mean?
I don't know. What is it?
Texas Commission on Law Enforcement.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. If you file a complaint with them, they'll throw it in the trash. And I send you this letter back. It says we examined your accusation, does not rise to the level of this conduct. 6 T-code complaints, and the bonding agent will go to the agency and say, you got this officer here who is an unacceptable risk. If you keep him, you'll raise your bond rating for the whole department. So what do you think is going to happen to Joe Jackwood?
He'll be gone.
My God.
Are you saying 6 against 1 officer?
And nobody else will hire him. If anybody hires him, the bond rating goes up. Now, this is not legal. This is all politics. You can never expect to win your case because you have the law and facts on your side. It's not that way now, never has been that way, as long as you have human beings for judges. To win your case, you have the politics on your side. Everything I do is about politics. Policeman write me a ticket, first thing I do is a T-code. Valid, invalid, who cares?
That officer?
Yeah. He don't care if the ticket's valid.
Well, if they're trying to enforce a transportation code and they're a city cop, then there's a violation right there. That's official oppression.
I wasn't going to go there yet. I was in court today, and the prosecutor got up there and read the indictment. The guy who was representing the co-counsel on the case, his name is Paul Ballou. I've known him for a very long time. What I didn't know, I found out this morning, he's running for governor.
What's his name?
I'm gonna get him on our side. I told him I have a present for you. So I'm in this hearing, and the prosecutor said that they spoke to this indictment. My question is, where is the order under 16.17? When a person's arrested in Texas, 14.06 for on-site offense, 15.16 for on a warrant. Both of them say the officer shall take the person directly to the nearest magistrate, and the magistrate under 2.10 is required to convene an examining court. The examining court is held under Chapter 16. After the examining trial, whether the judge finds probable cause or not, he's to issue an order. And stating whether the person is released at their liberty, bound to the court, set release on bail, or and he's to forward the documents to the clerk of the court. If the order is not filed with the court within 48 hours, the accused has a right to discharge. How hard is that to understand? Go down to
You say that again.
Say it a little bit louder so we can hear you clearly.
if an order under 16.17 is not filed with the clerk within 48 hours, the accused has a right to discharge.
Is that what?
Go look in Tarrant County's criminal records, and I defy you to find an order under 16.17.
Is that Texas Code of Criminal Procedure? Is that what?
Yes.
But how do we know if it's been filed within 48 hours? How do we know if it's been filed within 48 hours?
Be in the record. 17.30 tells the magistrate after the examining trial, he shall seal all documents had in the hearing. The order, statement of witnesses, and all other documents shall be sealed in an envelope. The magistrate shall write his name across the seal of the envelope. Only place in Texas law something's ordered sealed by statute. And forward it to the clerk of the court of jurisdiction. Here's how it works. A magistrate has jurisdiction based on a criminal affidavit by a credible person. That invokes the duty of the magistrate. It gives the magistrate jurisdiction and invokes his duty to hold an examining trial under Chapter 16. After the examining trial, the magistrate is to seal all documents had in the hearing, including his order, and forward it to the clerk of the court of jurisdiction. How hard is that to understand? If there was an examining trial, there must necessarily be an order under 1617 in the court record. I defy you to find one. That means you don't have jurisdiction. That means you have no immunity, zero.
They don't do it, Randy. It'd be very unusual for one police officer to take it to a magistrate.
No, it wouldn't. Under Texas law, they can hold a examining trial by phone. All you had to do is call a magistrate and get permission to take him to jail. He didn't do that. They never do that. I mean, in this case, and this is a really bad guy. They caught him with black tar heroin, felony in possession of a weapon. And I'm getting thrown out. I'm going to tell this Paul Ballou is running for governor. You ought to get that guy off. There's no 1617 order. And he said that the sheriff stopped him for a traffic violation. What the heck is that crap? Where in Texas law does a sheriff deputy have authority to enforce transportation code? 701.001 Texas Transportation Code says that the county commissioner's court may appoint a deputy as a traffic control officer. He must be a certified peace officer, he must be employed by the sheriff. And as a traffic control officer, he must be paid by the county commissioner's court, and he must ride a motorcycle. 701 part 001 through 003, it's just as clear as
The
it can
last
be.
one, he must, the last one you said he must,
701
The fourth.
point 001 through 003. He must be a certified peace officer, employed by the sheriff's department, paid by the county commissioner's court, and ride a motorcycle. Unless it's inclement weather.
did you call it transgression code?
Transportation.
I did a FOIA request with, first of all, we went to the county commissioners, and they said we have to go to the county sheriff. So we went to the county sheriff and did a public information request, and they immediately came back and said, we don't have any.
We have no records responsive to your request. I know. That means every arrest is illegal.
Under the, yes, absolutely.
Or every arrest, every stop by a police officer. Last time I got a ticket, I was going to a court, and I followed this sheriff's deputy into town. They seen me not let him traffic. So I knew he was there. I pulled up at this guy's house because we're getting ready to go to the court. This guy pulls the door. He came up to the car and he said, Mr. Kelter, do you know why I stopped you? I said, no, but I figured you were going to tell me. Well, your registration is expired. I said, only 2 years. He went back to write the ticket. I called 911. I want him arrested.
Official oppression.
Much better. We have a statute in Texas nobody else has. If a person commits simple assault, offensive, touching, offensive speech,
Aggravated assault.
and he is prominently displaying a deadly weapon, that's a second-degree felony in the state of Texas. Unless he is a public official acting under the color or pretense of an official capacity, in which case, felony of the first degree, 25 to life. You want to stop me with that pistol in your hip? You better make darn well sure you're within your authority. If I call 911, I want him arrested. First degree felony aggravated assault, I'll swear out the complaint. Well, a couple other cops showed up. The one that's talking to me through the door, he didn't know who I was. And he said, well, Mr. Kelton, you could be charged for abusing a 911 call. I said, what are you talking about? He said, because it's not an emergency. What are you talking about? It's first degree felony aggravated assault. I take that as a pretty serious emergency.
No joke.
Another cop showed up from a different town, Rome, Texas. But he knew who I was. He told them. I had went to the chief of police and filed a complaint against my nephew-in-law. They were getting a divorce, and he's acting ignorant, and I'm trying to get him calmed down. And he refused to give it to the magistrate. And I asked him about it. He said, well, the county attorney told me not to. Wait right here. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right
New
back.
message is received
Jumped
from
to the
Keith
car.
Gomez Free.
Headed
Message
to
is Mama, I'm
the
on Facebook
district-
again.
the county
Finally,
courthouse.
I can only use it through my laptop
And,
and at me. So I can join
Head
the
to the county
local
courthouse,
search
and
again.
James State and the county
Turn it
attorney.
off.
Turn it off.
Trying, don't you think I'm trying?
I was in court this morning and somebody's phone started ringing. Bailiff, escort her out of there. I lost my
So,
place.
when you read, he can't do this unless he's some kind of official? You can't point
Oh, yeah,
unless
but
they're-
he sent me to the prosecuting attorney, because he said the prosecuting attorney told him not to. I get to the courthouse and James met me in the hall. Mr. Kelton, I know why you're here. Do you really think I'm out of my professional mind? Do you really believe I would waive my absolute immunity by giving legal advice to the police? I don't know, James, I'm just following the thunder here. So I go back to the sheriff's department, to the police department in town. I knock on the door. This guy that showed up, Bob Boyd, in Boyd, Texas. He opened the door. Hello, Mr. Kelton. He's grinning from ear to ear. What can I do for you? Tell the chief that James Staten just threw his behind under the bus, and I'm here to run him over with it. he said, well, Mr. Calkin, I'll let you know on one condition. I said, what's that? I get to watch. I said, watch! Get a video! So he told him who I was. The policeman come back with the ticket. And he's so furious, he's shaking. He's telling me where to sign. I'm talking to this other cop, we kind of ignored him in the process. And I get the ticket, and I don't have a pen. I'm talking to this guy, and I sign it, I give it back to him. And I say a couple of things to him, and this cop says, give me my pen back. Ah, I thought I was going to get away with that. He jerked it out of my hand. So, went to the prosecuting attorney 6 months later. James, you never brought my ticket up. No, Mr. Kelton, you're not going to get to have your fun with me. This is what I want from all of you. You can do this.
We're in charge.
Set them up. It is so much fun. Judge Hayes in Mansfield, real stinker, real mean-spirited guy. We go in there, and we're helping people stop for evictions. David was with me. He went first. And I walked up to the bar and just stood there. Finally, the judge looked up and said, can I help you? I said, yes, Your Honor, my name's Randy Kelton, and I have a hearing deficiency. Well, Mr. Kelton, what's wrong with your hearing? Oh, Judge, I was down in Mexico the other day, and I drank too much of that cheap tequila. Kind of lost my hearing. I was lying to him, I had it in my pocket. Well, why are you telling me this? Do you have accommodation for the hearing impaired? No, I do not. We have a sound system here. Will you turn it up? No, I will not. I leaned over the bar. Will you speak up? And he did. Told the lady if I didn't sit down and shut up, he used to throw me out of the courtroom. So I sat down and shut up. They called me up for my hearing. Started hearing objection. I am here at arm's length to the court. I have a challenge to subject matter jurisdiction before the court. Yes, Mr. Kelton, you just filed that 20 minutes ago. Yes, Your Honor, as a matter of fact, I did. Well, I'm going to deny it. You're going to deny challenge subject matter jurisdiction without even reading it. You have my ruling. Yes, I do. And I slammed my folder shut. We're done here. Got up, walked to the bar, and I pointed to the bailiff. You, come with me. Stormed out of the courtroom. The bailiff comes out. He's about 6'6", just a bear man. Mr. Kelton, what can I do for you? I need you to arrest the judge. He said, well, why would I arrest the judge? I said, misdemeanor, official repression, criminal violation, 39.03 Texas Penal Code. In that he failed upon duty he is required to fulfill in the process, denied me full free access to or enjoyment of right. Well, Mr. Kelton, what right did he deny you with? He denied me in my right to accommodation under the Americans with Disabilities Act. Well, why didn't you tell him about the Americans with Disabilities Act? Well, heck, if I'd have done that, he might have turned the sound up. Bailiff stood there a minute, and this grin come across his face. You set him up. I said, yeah, he's a sucker for that one. Now get in there and arrest him. Man, I can't arrest the judge. Look at you, big strapping officer, got that pistol over your head. You need to take your chicken suit off. Man, you take my chicken suit off.
I ain't taking it off.
2 days later, this was an education for me.
Say it again?
So this was an education for me.
For you, okay.
2 days later, I'm at a political rally in Fort Worth. And the only one I've ever been to. And I walk in the door, and I thought I recognized this security guy. It was that bailiff. He found me in the pavilion. He said, Mr. Kelton, are you busy right now? I said, well, no. He said, do you have a few minutes? I have someone I'd like you to meet. And he said, I have some people I'd like you to meet. And while we're going over there, he's explaining these are other bailiffs who do security for these events to make extra money. We walked in the door, and he said, hey, this is the guy I told you about that set up Judge Hayes. And these bailiffs came over, 3 of them I knew. And the vitriol that come out of those bailiffs about those judges was amazing. They hated those judges. We think the bailiffs are bad guys. They have to stand there and watch these judges screw one person after another. Give them opportunity. They just may clobber those judges for you. Police, they're in the same position. Most police, I know probably 50 policemen. I don't know a single policeman who became a policeman so he could be a jackboot thug.
A thug?
Thug.
Okay.
They want to be good guys. They're trapped inside a system they didn't create and they can't fix it. The only one who can fix it?
Us. Yeah, we can.
Our job. Now, I filed lots of criminal complaints. I've never went with grand juries. I've never really made it done. I think of my public officials like I do my grandkids. I love it dearly. But if one of them steps out in the road, I'm fixing to tan his hide. And I'm sorry, Mr. Policeman, that I have to use you as my crash dummy. If I can use the governor as a crash dummy, I can use you. No offense, nothing personal, but this is how we get it fixed.
So what you're saying is that the corruption of the system, not necessarily the people, that we need to fight against, because it is corrupt, they have corrupted it, and they break the law continually because of the setup.
It's not, I don't think it's like that. You know, I talked earlier about the prosecuting attorney giving legal advice to the police and lower courts. They didn't create this mess.
Right.
If there were an individual that I could demonize beyond all redemption and rail out in righteous indignation, this would be a lot easier. But I can't find a bad guy out there. I find a lot of people in positions that once they got into them and got invested in those positions, they found out they weren't what they thought they were.
But can the system be redeemed, if you will, or does it have to be trashed?
No,
It can be redeemed.
We have the best body of law of any state in the union, by far. There's not a remedy I need that I don't have right there in the code.
I heard about a judge, or a guy actually, that ran for election to be a judge in Nevada, and he was all excited. A friend of mine was telling me about it. I can't remember which friend, but he was telling me about this judge, this guy that ran for election to be a judge, and he was all excited about it and everything, and he had to go for this 4-day training class, and when he came back, he was all discouraged and despondent, and he said that training class was how to entrap people into contracts, and it had nothing to do with doing the right thing or anything like that.
What we have to do is give them plausible deniability. Policeman pulls me over, that sergeant that pulled me over and gave me that ticket, I'm pretty well certain you couldn't tie him up and throw him at me. He's not going to stop me on a bet. I went down to the court and filed 150 pages of documents. But we need to give them plausible deniability. You get a lawyer. Last lawyer I had, they dismissed the case to protect my lawyer from me. This is how it works. The lawyer is not going to do anything to annoy the judge, unless you kick him in his professional trousers. Going into court is like sitting at a four-sided chessboard. You sit down at the table. You've got your counsel to your right, opposing counsel to your left, which is across from you. You have a relationship with your counsel. Your counsel has a relationship with you and with opposing counsel. And both of them has a relationship with the judge. If you're going to win your case, you got to get inside that relationship. So the way you do it is by kicking your lawyer right square in his professional pants. The thing I like to do first is file a bar grievance against opposing counsel. And as to filing bar grievances, the rule is file them quick, file them often. Valid, invalid, who cares? They created this mess, we didn't. If our bar grievances actually had some effect, I would be more reluctant to file one, unless I had really good cause. But they're going to throw them on the trash. So, I'll bar grievance a drop of a hat. I'll bar grievance part and a half on the left. And won't feel bad about it. So, you have to get in this relationship. If you bar grieve the lawyer on the other side, and then you tell your lawyer, I got these documents I want you to file. Generally, he'll say, absolutely not. But now he's saying, if he bar grieved the other lawyer, he's likely to bar grieve me. Now you've got into the relationship. My last case, they had a Capitol Police Guard, their UPS officers, bashed me into a wall, knock out one of my teeth. Then they arrested me to cover up for what he did. So they called me into court. And kind of a long story, the clerk called me up to ask me questions. She said, "You Randall Kelton?" Yes, yeah. I have some questions for you. No questions. I want to talk to the judge. Well, if you don't answer my questions, you can't talk to the judge. Well, let's see what the judge has to say about that. I think I need to call security. Yes, ma'am. I'll be sitting right here. Well, somebody told him. Time security gets there, he knows who I am. And he's tippy-toeing around. He said, "Mr. Kelton, do you mind if we step outside so we don't disturb the proceedings?" And anytime I get a reasonable request, I go for it. It's okay. We go outside. He said, "What seems to be the problem?" Well, the problem is, I'm not sure if I need you to arrest the clerk or the judge. Well, what for? Well, the clerk for impersonating a judicial officer, or the judge for official oppression. Mr. Kelton, I'll be right back. He goes in, comes out. Mr. Kelton, the judge will see you. That's very nice of her. So he asked me to wait outside. I said, okay. So they called me. Come up before the judge, and the judge said, "You're Randall Kelton." Sure, I am. She stated, and I said, "Your Honor, I haven't been summoned here. I've got the summons, but it doesn't tell me why I'm here. You want to tell me what I'm doing here?" "Well, Mr. Kelton, we need to know if you have an attorney." "Well, that's interesting, Your Honor. I've got 28.01 Texas Code of Criminal Procedure. It lists all of those things you can order me to court for. Those things include arraignment, 11 others, and all go to motions and pleadings currently before the court. That's it." So I've got 2801 lists all the things you've ordered me to court for. Let's see if I have an attorney. It's not one of them. My court watcher said he could see her jaw muscles working. But turned out her name was Elizabeth Earl. Her father was Ron Earl, 25-year district attorney. He's the one that got the complaint against the Court of Criminal Appeals. Took me a year. Finally, Claire Dawson Brown gave him to the grand jury. And I told him, under 2.03, you have to. But you don't have to agree with it. So you give them the complaints and then ride in there on your white horse and talk them out of indicting and save the day. So I finally give them to them on April 1st, their first day in office. A month and a half later, I went to Clara and I said, "What's the problem? What's taking so long?" She said, "Mr. Kelton, I made sure that every grand juror read your entire presentment." What? My habeas is in there. And I thought about that. She's not trying to get him no-billed. She's trying to bury him. Ron Earl. He's the guy that took out Tom DeLay, Speaker of the House. I filed a habeas in that court, that case. Nobody ever accused Tom DeLay of a crime. There's not a complaint in the record. So there was no jurisdiction. But that was all set up. Judge Dietz picked the jury. They went out for lunch, came back, and he's talking to the jury, and I stood up in the courtroom and said, "Your Honor, my name is Randall Kelton. I have business with this court that supersedes any business now before this court." "You're the one with the habeas." "Yes, as a matter of fact, I am." And he had me summarily thrown out of the court. But since that wasn't my fight, I didn't pursue it. This one, after a full year, he gives it to the grand jury, and she had the grand jury read my entire presentment. And I thought, what the heck is going on? And it took a while, it occurred to me. Ron Earl, 25-year district attorney. He's retiring. He's a Democrat. All 9 of these judges are Republicans. You will never get the system to be afraid of you. What you'll get them to be afraid of is the political cannon fodder you create for their political enemies. That's why the governor dropped all of his executive orders. This is, my complaint's likely to embolden everybody else, all his enemies to come back after him. Embolden those people running against him to take these criminal complaints and wave it in front of the public. This is why you should get rid of this scoundrel. So everything is politics. When I first tell people it's everything's political, it sounds awful. That you'll never win your case simply because you have a lot of facts on your side. That sounds awful. But it's not a problem. It's only a problem if you don't know everything is political. When you step back and look at everything from the political side, everything changes, and you find out that you are the most politically powerful person in a building. You can go in there and run through them, stomping your feet all the way, and all they can do is say, yes, sir, Mr. Kelly, don't stomp on me. You have the power to change everything. And when you file criminal charges, you are absolutely protected. Back to how you do it, back to the routine. Take your first criminal charge. You pick the guy you want. I like some really crappy, nitpicking little complaint. And I file against them. First thing I do is go to a magistrate. In Texas, all complaints are directed to some magistrate. If a policeman has made known to him that crime's been committed under 2.13 Code of Criminal Procedure, he shall give notice to some magistrate. If a prosecuting attorney hasn't made known to him that a crime's been committed by a public official, he's to reduce complaint to information submitted to the grand jury. And under 204, 205, 206, that handles normal criminal procedure, when a prosecutor has made known that a crime's been committed, he's to give notice to some magistrate. Everything is directed to a magistrate. Because only by way of a finding of probable cause by a magistrate can the court get jurisdiction.
Could the magistrate be either district or county?
Attorney General Opinion H500 says, any magistrate may take any complaint, state or federal, felony or misdemeanor, from anywhere in the state.
So is JP a magistrate?
Pardon me?
Who is a J? Who's a magistrate?
Magistrates.
Any judge?
Who are magistrates?
Any judge?
The reason I filed with the Chief Justice, I filed against the governor with the Chief Justice. I didn't get
The
to
Supreme Court?
First one, under 2.09, who are magistrates? Justices of the Supreme Court, judges of the Court of Criminal Appeals, district judges, county judges, justices of the peace, municipal judges, and recorders.
Who's not?
I have no idea what a recorder is. Never have been able to find it. But all judges are magistrates. That's why I'm told the district judge. I'm not here to invoke your duty as a district judge. I'm here to invoke your duty as a magistrate. And he knew exactly where I was going. And I had it, and he knew it. So every judge is a magistrate. I generally look at what kind of politics do I want to create here? Who do I want to hammer? I take that person and I take a complaint against that person, somebody else. I had a sheriff's deputy arrest me back in October in the district attorney's office, having a private conversation with the district attorney because he was afraid I was going to file criminal charges against him, and he was right, I was. So how do I get this guy? Well, I take a complaint against him to a magistrate, a JP. They will never act on a complaint against the police officer. At least I hope they don't. That's why I say never ask a public official to do anything else you want them to. So I asked her to hold an examining trial. They refused. And what they'll tell you is, well, Mr. Kelton, you really need to take that to the sheriff's department. Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate your legal advice there. So I go to the sheriff's department. I'm going to complain against the magistrate. But not. See, he's doing it. You know I didn't do it. So I take a complaint against the magistrate to give to the sheriff. Here's how you do it with police. Police will ask you to fill out a voluntary statement. If you give them a voluntary statement, then they investigate into your accusation and find no probable cause. So Hi, when they tell me, ask me to fill out a voluntary statement, you bet, give me that thing. And then when I give it back to them, underneath it, I have a verified criminal affidavit.
A verified what?
Verified criminal affidavit.
Okay.
Verified means notarized. Anytime you create a legal document that states facts, it must be notarized, verified. So I hand it to it, he's reading the statement, and he realizes something's behind it. He pulled it out. What's this? Well, that's a verified criminal affidavit against the county attorney. This was in Stephenville. Well, I'm not gonna take this. Sorry, Bubba, you already got it.
Oh, 'cause you confused.
You stuck to it. Oh, he was so furious he was shaking. All right, Bob, kill the messenger. So you set them up, get that in their hand. Once they touched it, they're stuck to Henderson County wake-up. A judge would not accept a subject matter jurisdiction challenge in a case that was already closed. The woman is trying to get it done, got a hold of me, and I went down there, and I told the clerk that I'm a journalist, I'm a radio talk show host, and I understand that the judge is not accepting documents. The documents somebody's trying to file in the court, and the judge refusing to accept it. She said, well, can I see it? I said, yes. I said, will you show it to the judge and ask what the problem with it is? She said, well, sure. She said, okay, I got it. The judge has got it. He said, what is this? Classified in the case. I'm not accepting this. All right, Bubba, you got it. I'm not gonna act on it. Threw it in the trash. It's up to you. You got it, you stuck to it. It went across the hall. I wrote up a complaint against him and asked for a district attorney. They sent out this little kid. He looked at it. He said, well, this is against the judge. Yeah, it is. I need to talk to my boss. So he goes back, and this big, tall guy comes out. Really distinguished looking. And he's got this complaint. And he said, are you Randall Kelly? Yes, matter of fact, I am. Did you write this complaint? I said, yes, I did. Tell me, what are you going to do with it? He said, Mr. Kelvin, I get the impression that you're a man on a mission. And I make it a point never to interfere with a man on a mission. I'll go give this to the grand jury. They'll give me whatever they want to do. I never heard from him again. But a week later, this woman got a notice for a hearing on that motion. I don't ever want them indicted. I want their attention. And criminal complaints really gets their attention. A friend of mine had a son-in-law who worked for the Tarrant County Sheriff's Department. He got the grand jury duty. And I saw Jim, and Jim said, David came to me and he wanted to know, what is your picture doing hanging up in the grand jury room with a sign that says, if you see this man, call security. I don't know, they like me. But I'm just going back. What if I could get a whole room full in Tarrant County with their pictures up in the grand jury room? All this garbage we're hearing about, the police doing this stuff's going away. The real thing I'm after.
How long have you been at this?
I would say longer than you've been alive, but maybe not.
How long? How long?
Only since the 80s,
Huh?
the 1980s.
40 years?
40 years.
And we're supposed to learn all this?
No. I sorted through all the trash.
Yeah, okay.
I got,
But
the
you-
whole thing was, how do you make this thing work?
You have a schematic to help us.
It's got a website.
Website.
It's got several websites.
No, there's several
Can we
websites.
just call you?
It's not really,
Just
there's only
get
one
it.
thing, and that's the whole point of this.
Randy, if the judge won't take your complaint, couldn't you circumvent all of them and go straight to the informant of the grand jury and say, I have business to conduct?
Yeah, but that's not near as much fun.
Ah.
I wanna be
What's
able-
funner? What's funner?
I want to be able to say to them, I have exercised all my possible remedies. It's only one thing. You have the right to file a criminal charge. If you know that a crime's been committed, you have a duty to file that criminal complaint. complaint.
How many details does the criminal complaint need to go into? I mean, can you just make the statement, I have reason to believe and do believe that he did this to me?
No, you have to,
And
you have
leave
to
it
give,
at that?
you have to give some facts,
Okay.
enough for a reasonable person of ordinary prudence to have reason to believe that a crime was committed and this person committed it.
Is there a form, or do you just put it?
I've got some forms. Anybody seen the email? I'll
So
send-
the fact that this cop stopped me for a speeding ticket and I have a public information request from the county sheriff saying that they don't have any traffic officers under section 701 means that that cop is
That
engaged
is-
in official oppression and aggravated assault and
That's called collateral estoppel. Collateral estoppel. Once you say it, it's done. You can't unsay it.
And,
The greatest crime has been committed against humanity, and I think we all know what that is. This vaccine, this changing our DNA, killing our children.
Stop. Let's not go off on that. We can get to that in another forum. Here we're talking about how to file complaints.
But isn't that a crime too, and how can we approach it?
Yeah, but I got 500 others. Really going to how to actually do this and not get lost. I do this radio show. I've got more fights thrown at me than I could ever possibly get to. I'll show you how to fight them.
That's what we need. Yeah, that's what I.
Actually, I'm
Yes.
building an argument for that as we speak.
when?
Because I'm building a suit
When?
against the state of Texas.
Yes, when?
When?
Send me an email.
Huh?
Send me an email. All I need is some motivation. I got so many things going on.
Thousands of children are
Yeah,
being
we're very
vaccinated
lost.
by force
I know
right
that.
now.
As we speak, they're getting killed. It's a genocide.
Yeah,
No
we're
other.
really active.
It's a Holocaust.
I have been doing this for 30 years.
We understand.
I have 3 very powerful suits I could have filed for myself, but I didn't because I had so many issues like this
Yeah.
that I've been trying to put
You gotta
out for
pick your
30 years.
battles.
There's an underlying technology. If I can get that in your hands, you don't need me.
Okay.
Right.
Priorities.
We'll do it ourselves.
Give you where you can do it. Come to me and I'll
We'll do
give you
it.
the structure and how to do it, but I can't do it all.
Right.
I'm writing an argument about the mass, this $200 million lawsuit I'm filing against the county. It started out, I went to the county and the guys at the metal detector are standing there and he's talking to these, checking these people in front of me. He looked back and he pointed at.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
He got to me and he said, sir, you need to wear a mask. I said, no. He said, did you say no?
Right.
Yeah, I said no. He had to go somewhere, and the other officer I knew for years, I said, Mr. Stokes, if I refuse to wear a mask, are you going to let me come to the courthouse? He said, no. Are you willing to use force to keep me from coming to this courthouse? I said, no. I said, Mr. Stokes, I see you're wearing a pistol. Tell me, is that pistol loaded? Yes, it is. Are you prepared to use that pistol if need be to keep me from coming in this courthouse? Without a mask? He said, I want him arrested.
We did that in our.
I got it recorded. That grew into a $200 million lawsuit.
That's the one that gets.
This is how it works. Take them from the bottom and walk them to the top. I got everybody in there. I got 32 criminal complaints against the district judge.
Will you be there Saturday in Keene
Saturday.
for the meeting of the Republic of Texas?
Wait a computer.
no, he's not gonna be there. You don't go to the Republic of Texas meetings, do you? I haven't seen you
They
there.
hate me.
Yeah, there you go.
The last time I was at a Republic of Texas meeting, I kind of chastised them. If you guys want to throw out the government, replace it. They wanted me to do a presentation. Who here has the knowledge and background to keep hospitals open? Keep the old folks' homes working, to keep our structure in place?
Right.
We have a very good structure. Let's need to fix it. If you guys replace it with a new one, it'll just generate just like this one did.
Right.
Let's fix the one we got.
We need
If
to
you want to
talk
fix it,
about, we need to talk about that.
if you want to fix it, come up here, put your name on that criminal complaint and bang it.
So,
They could not get me out of there.
We need to talk about methodology.
Yeah.
Exactly.
when you have these criminal.
It would thrill me if I could get there. It would thrill me if I could get over to this.
So let's talk about it.
Okay.
So when you file these criminal complaints and all, what are these, you said you had this 200, whatever the monetary amount was. Don't they just languish forever? That's really my concern. We
That-
want to do exactly, we want to learn from you. You don't need to be involved. You teach us because we're active and
That I
we're going to
can
fight
show you.
this fight. But how long does it take?
Okay.
We don't have a lot of time. We don't have a lot of time. We're at the
Children
end.
don't have the time.
We're right there.
I got that. How many criminal complaints have you filed? You were at my first meeting. How many have you filed?
We're working on a few.
Working. Should have
That means not filed. I filed a bunch of them. I filed a lot of them.
Good.
I'm
Taking
working
with
on
you.
helping others to file them by having meetings and classes and inviting people here. Everybody has their strength. Mine is not in the legal arena. However, I'm learning. I'm here with everybody else. But we don't have a lot of time. Children are dying. People are dying daily. The hospitals are, it's a setup. All of the masks and everything were to lead us to
I
this
got
point
that.
to get everybody vaccinated.
I got that. That's not the only issue where people are dying. We got people dying in jail that never should have been there. We got
Yep.
people killed by
That's right.
police all over,
That's right.
all over
That's
the
right.
place.
That's
Which one
right.
should I drop everything I'm doing and take off?
The one that affects the globe, the whole globe, which is the vaccines.
That's your issue.
So we'll do it.
I'll show you how to do it.
Okay.
But don't ask me to pick it up.
No.
That's part of, that's why I've been doing this for 4 years and don't have it done yet. I've been allowed myself to be let off on every issue that's out there, and I wind up deluding myself like it.
I'm very interested. I'm going to take the lead on this with our organization to do the legal.
Go down to
Thank
those,
you.
go down to those meetings.
Go, Chad.
Yeah,
Go to
but I
that
need to know
meeting,
how.
and they say they're gonna do something that's against law, call 911 right there.
Okay,
If they wanna have you removed from the room, call 911.
okay.
I'd love to do
But
that.
I need to know I need to know exactly what you know.
That's what I'm working on.
Well, I mean.
What do you really need?
Enough.
What I'm trying to
Exactly.
demonstrate here, once you understand who you are, the amount you need to know is minuscule. You're going to this meeting and you pretty well know what they're going to do. Before you go there, look up the legal underpinnings of what they're trying to do. And if you can find a place where you can show that there is reason to believe that they stepped half inch across a legal line, call 911. 911 is very powerful.
But how do you compel the peace officer to do
You
anything?
can't.
I did.
Right.
I did when we were down in Arlington, because they wouldn't
Yeah,
let
they
us
didn't.
in. And then the 911 said, no, there's policemen already there taking care of the matter.
Ooh, which police?
The person, the operator
No,
that
no,
answered the
no,
phone.
you ask the operator, what policeman name, badge number?
Oh, you gotta ask for their badge.
Yeah, if they don't give you name and badge number, file against the sheriff. They find you that superior. The sheriff is not gonna like it when he gets criminal charges against him. You can do that. Everybody else has to go through the chain of command. You're the master, you're outside of that chain of command.
What about, like, I was arrested one time, and I called 911, and I says, I want the county sheriff here, and they refused to come. Actually, the 911 went to the city switchboard, and they said, we've already got cops there. And I said, well, I don't want the cops here, I want the sheriff here. And they refused to get the sheriff.
Yeah, we tried to do that the other day, and there wasn't a sheriff in
And,
Arlington.
and then I found out that the sheriff won't come. And I found out subsequent to that the sheriff doesn't have any traffic officers, and these cops were enforcing the traffic code.
You don't care if they send anybody or not. You file against the 911 operator. And you don't even care if you don't know her name.
You file against the 911 operator? What do you file against
Do
them?
you let them know that?
Official oppression.
Okay,
They don't perform a duty they require to perform, you call for assistance.
okay,
As you're the victim,
right.
and they don't have a duty to protect you. They do have a duty to enforce law. You call to file a criminal complaint and to report crime, and they fail to perform their duty. If you can't, they'll try to hide the 911 operator from you. At least you hope they do. Then you go after the sheriff. It's all politics.
And then what about a criminal complaint against the sheriff? Because the sheriff knows that they don't have any traffic officers, and here I'm calling for a sheriff and they're refusing to come.
I'm suing the sheriff for $30 million
Yeah, right, yeah, good.
because he knew what they were doing.
Yeah, exactly. They do know it.
Let him explain it to a jury, of our peers.
Yeah.
Tell you, when you start taking them to court, they get real excited. Last time I sued the sheriff, he wouldn't talk to me for 20 years. Sorry, brother, life is tough. This is the power we have. Nobody's gonna come to you and say, hey, you know what you did, boy, that really hurt me. They're not gonna tell you. You get in a fight with somebody, he's not gonna tell you this. I used this the other day. Don't hit me. You're not gonna get that direct feedback. Just watch what they do. If I get right in your face and push, you're gonna push back. I wanna nudge you. I want to nudge you from a distance. And the best thing to have is a third party. If you have an issue and you're going before the court, you need a third party.
Witness.
There's nothing worse than a third party ringer.
Yep.
Who is this guy?
Don't worry about
Williamson
it.
County Attorney. Alex Jones did a video where he's sitting in a car and the videographer shooting past him down this valley. He said, that's Williamson County. I drive 20 miles to go around Williamson County. I will not drive in Williamson County.
Yep.
But I went to Williamson County. This guy got charged for 2 prescription pills and an aspirin bottle. We brought him the prescriptions, they're still pursuing. So I went with him and another guy, and I told him, you don't know I'm here. So go and take care of your business. And I went to the clerk and asked to see the file. And she said, who are you? I'm the guy who wants to see the file. Okay, go get the file.
I like that.
I'm in a nice suit. They have no idea who I am. So they get the file. I'm looking through it. I said, I have a problem. What's that? There's something missing. Well, what's missing? There's no criminal affidavit in here. Where is it? And there's no letter, sealed envelope in the record where the 1617 order was sent to the court. And he said, well, I don't know what that is. Get someone who does. Runs in the back. And the clerk come out. I said, where's the criminal complaint? Well, this is all we get. How on earth do you create a criminal cause of action when you have no cause? Well, this is how we do it. If you don't have these records, who might have them? Well, we might check with the county attorney, and wrote out an information request. You know, I said earlier that the magistrate, when he finishes the examining trial, is to seal all documents in an envelope, cause his name to be written across the seal of the envelope. That's 17.30 Code of Criminal Procedure. So I wrote this request. I want to see all records collected, assembled, and maintained by the department that are specifically referenced by Article 17.30 Texas Code of Criminal Procedure. They take it back. A little while, this female ADA comes out. Big orders. A low-cut dress. Spiked stripper heels, mini skirt. And, you know, I'm a guy. I appreciate a good-looking babe. But I was insulted. Do you really think that's going to make any difference? She said, Mr. Helton, I've read your request and I'm not sure what you're asking for. Can you clarify? Oh yeah, sure. I want exactly what that says. If you don't understand what it says, contact the legislature and let them explain it to you. Off she went. So I go sit in the courtroom. They're having these cattle calls. And I sit down, I got the folder out, I'm taking notes. And this young kid, ADA, comes through the bar next to me. Solid black suit, black red satin shirt, black satin tie. I guess he thought he looked cool. He said, sir, yes. Do you have a case here today? Oh, no. I'm going to write Lord. He stands there a minute. I knew when he was there. I set him up for that. Who is this guy? So, sir. I said, yes. Do you have a civil case in this court? No, nothing like that. Right? He stands there a minute. Sir, sir, and I look up at him. No more questions. I go back to writing. I can see him there shuffling around a little bit. And he left. A little while later, this older guy comes. He put his hands on the bar and he leaned over and I looked at him. He's obviously elected county clerk, county attorney. He said, sir, sir. Yes. He said, you can give a appearance docket for the clerk downstairs. I said, yeah, I asked the lady if you told her that. Thank you. Right. He stands there a minute. Sir, sir. Yes. Sir, if you need anything, just let me know. I can help you. If I need you, I will summon you. You're dismissed. He kind of steps back. You'd have thought I hit him with a bat. Yeah. And so after I left, Doug came to me and said, what did you do? So I just jerked him around a little bit. He said, well, they come to me and said, somebody here going through your records. And he said, I told you I had a top secret clearance and you're going to screw it up. How do you think I'm fit? And he said, they asked him, Mr. Bell, what do you want? Well, I want you to dismiss this case. Okay, we'll dismiss the case. Anything else? Well, I'd like a judge's order. It took him to the judge to sign the order. Anything else? I'd like my bond money back. Took him down to the clerk, filled out the paperwork. We got the bond money the next day. He came to a presentation I was doing at Working with Books in Austin. And he said, you ever walk in a room and turn the light on and watch the cop towards you stab? He said, that's what it looked like. Now what happened? What's going on there? The more corrupt the jurisdiction is, the more afraid of you they are. If these guys were absolutely up and up, it would be speculation about me. But when I was in there and they had no idea who I was, they're thinking, that guy's after me. They would go home and they open their deepest, darkest closet, look at their skeleton, and they know that's why I'm at. The more corrupt the system is, the easier it is.
And Williamson County's the worst.
I don't
Pretty
think
much.
Well, it got better. I came back a couple of weeks later and asked for an ADA, and they sent out a investigator. I said, well, you're not an attorney, you're just an investigator. He said, that's right. We're not going to provide an ADA. I said, okay, I can handle that. And I took out my phone. I said, what's the number of the sheriff's department? And he told me, and I called the sheriff's department and asked them to send somebody out to arrest. Hey, you, what'd you say your name was? And the district attorney, I forget what his name was, he's the one that got in a lot of trouble. For Class A misdemeanor official oppression, I'll swear out the complaints on the way. And they said, well, send out someone right out. And they took quite a while, so I got bored waiting. I went to the district judge and asked him to take my complaints and prepare arrest warrants for the ADA of this investigation. And the clerk went back there and come out, and I wanted him to take my complaints and hold an examining trial on them. And the judge refused to. But the bailiff is standing there, he's watching. So, Mr. Bailiff, you hear that? Yes, I did. I need you to go back there and arrest the judge. Well, I can't arrest the judge. I said, sure can. Just go back there and throw the cuffs on him and drag him off the judge. They went through that routine. And then when I was leaving, 2 cops showed up and they arrested me. Next morning, they found out who I was. The jailers were saying, no, Mr. Kelton, no. You know I didn't have anything to do with this, Mr. Kelton. But after that, most of that stuff stopped. It just takes somebody to step right in the middle.
They arrested you and put you in jail, correct?
Yeah.
For 24 hours?
And that was one of the suits I wasn't able to get to because I was helping everybody with their.
So that's a risk you take, correct?
Absolutely. And it's not too bad. Last time I was arrested in Austin, I complained about the room service. They recognized me. You again? What can I do? And the guy came and opened the door of the cell, a big long cell, and I'm laying on the cot in the back. He opened the door, and he said, I heard you were complaining about the room service. I said, yeah, it sucks in here. He said, well, don't get up. So we're going to serve it to you in bed. screw the sandwich out, slammed the door. But they were pretty good. What's they knew what it was.
We all signed a petition on the event 2021, just a few days ago, with Dr. Richard Fleming and Dr. Gang. And one of the things that we sent is called a petition for the Congressional Senate. The same petition was for the Congress, the Governor Abbott, and then to the President. Does it have any teeth? Should we continue pursuing this, or what do you feel would be a stronger?
Zero teeth. Petitions.
Petitions.
Why are we doing it?
Absolutely.
Criminal charges.
They want you to do these petitions because you feel like you need something done. They just
Nothing ever happens.
Ignore it.
But when you start filing criminal charges against them,
Right.
you know, they're pretty sure that if this goes to a grand jury, nothing's going to happen. So here, who here wants to play Russian roulette? I walked into my district attorney's office and he's sitting with his head in his hand. And I said, "What's the matter, Greg?" He looked up at me and he said, "Those darn grand jurors, you never know what they're going to do." And I stepped back. There is a God. I could not have heard anything better. I never want anybody to get tired.
They're afraid of something that usually doesn't exist? Is that what you're saying? I'm trying to hear you.
Having your liberty put before a grand jury
Right.
is always a crapshoot.
Okay.
Most 90% of the time, you can't get a grand jury to indict a public official.
Right.
So we're threatening it, but not really going there.
Exactly.
Okay.
I don't
Okay.
want them indicted.
Right,
We could get rid of all our public officials, replace them all, we'd be in the same place.
right.
I want to take a public official like, what's his name?
Put the
in
fear of
Johnson
God into
County,
him.
Abbott, Whitley.
DA.
Whitley was one of the ones.
Sharon Wilson?
No, Johnson County DA. Hale or?
I can't remember his name, I know
Anyway,
I don't think he's-
several years ago, I filed some
Yeah, I think that was
complaints against
right.
public officials. And he secreted them from the grand jury. I just walked up to, I went to the sheriff's department and asked to see the morning arraignment here. This is how I like to set them up. The best fight to have is when you pick. Don't wait till they pick one of you. Go down and pick one of them. It's great fun. I want to see the morning hearings in the jail. Oh, they're held in jail. You can't see them. Well, that's no problem. Hold them somewhere else. I want to watch. And he said, "Well, you can't." I said, "Don't tell me that. Go get the magistrate to tell me that." He said, "Okay." So I went back, come back out. He said, "The judge said this is her courtroom, but you're not coming in." I said, "Lieutenant, you need to instruct that judge that she is mistaken. That is my courtroom. I very generously allow her to administer according to my law, and she just violated one of them. You go back there and arrest her." And went through the whole chicken soup routine. And then I told him he was really good. He never lost his cool. And I pushed him. I tried to get him to it, but he didn't. I said, now, Lieutenant, I may be making some really ugly sounding criminal accusations against you, but don't take it personal. I'm not after you. He said, "You're going to be filing criminal charges against me, you're not after me?" "Yeah." "Well, who are you after?" "I'm after the district judge." "Well, why are you going to file against me?" "Oh, well, you're convenient." So how do you deal with somebody like that? This guy's going to try to ruin your career, and he's just using you as a stepping stone to get somebody else. If you go to Johnson County and file a criminal claim against a public official, at least it used to be, until recently, they got right on it immediately. But they got kind of lax. He just filed one, and they decided not to act on it. And the next thing the DA sees is me back. I was in the courtroom. I bushwhacked the grand jury in the courtroom. Johnson County, when the grand jury finishes their deliberation, they come into court and they read the fact of the true bill onto the record. So they did that. And I'm sitting in the courtroom. Everybody's looking back like, who is this guy? Probably the only time anybody other than the prosecutors and the judges ever in there. So they finished reading them all on the record, and the judge said, this is Bosworth, said, "Does the grand jury have any further business?" The foreman said, "No, Your Honor, we do not." I stood up in the courtroom and said, "Yes, you do." judge said, well, who are you? I'm Randy Kelton. Now, what business do you have with this grand jury? Now, I could have told him, I got business with this grand jury, and it's none of yours, but I have plans for him. I said, well, Your Honor, I have some criminal complaints against some public officials. And what officials are those? This district attorney sitting here, him and Lisa White are sitting there squirming in their seats. They know why I'm there. And this district attorney sitting here, and this assistant district attorney sitting here, and you, Judge. And Bosworth just froze in his seat. And he froze, he didn't say anything. Your Honor, I have business with the grand jury. He sat there. Okay. So I turned to the grand jury. I said, I started out with a minor little criminal complaint, and the prosecuting attorney chose to shield it from prosecution in violation of 2.03 Code of Procedure. And in trying to get the law followed, it turned into this, and I picked up a folder about emergency state. I need you to hear these complaints. And they did. I called Lisa Wyatt and asked her, when was the grand jury going to sit next? Oh, Mr. Kelton, you just missed them. They just met today. They won't meet again until next month. Liar, liar, pants on liar. Never ask a lawyer a question you don't already know the answer to. They're going to meet the next day. So I go there, go down to the grand jury room, tell the bailiff, this particular bailiff hated me. I said, Mr. Bailiff, my name is Randall Kelton. I know who you are. Instruct the foreman that I have business with the grand jury. And tell him the nature of the business. Yes, you may. Give him these. And I give him his big box. And he's standing there and he's, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking I should talk to the prosecuting attorney. Those complaints are against the prosecuting attorney. And if you talk to him, I'll consider that a criminal act. And he said, Mr. Kelton, are you threatening me? Mr. Bailiff, I promise you, you give those to the district attorney, and you will be the next one to run the grand jury. I'll just give him form and see what he has to say. Good idea. And then I go up to the courtroom. Well, Lisa Wyatt, they're having one of these cattle call things. She's talking to the judge. And she stepped back and turned around and saw me sitting there. And just froze. Then she ran over to the side and talked to this other ADA. That ADA split. And I'm thinking, sorry guys, too late. They already, she sent her to get the complaints. Too late, they already got them. So I'm sitting in the courtroom waiting for the grand jury to call me. I walked out of the courtroom and the sergeant on the bailiff's there, real nice guy, we got all real good. He said, Mr. Kelton, you seem like a personable individual. I said, well, I try to be. He said, you mind if I give you a little advice? I said, sure. When you come down here poking the bear the way you do, you really need to be careful. Oh, don't worry, Sergeant, I'm always very careful. Besides, you don't understand. I am the bear. And he laughed and said, yes, Mr. Kelton, today you are the bear. They called me in, and the foreman of the grand jury was absolutely furious. He wanted to know what my problem with the prosecuting attorney was. I don't have a problem with him. Have no axe to grind. He's never arrested me, prosecuted me, never prosecuted anybody I know. Well, then why are you here? Well, I mean, he's criminal. He had a duty to perform. He failed to do it. Well, if you're not upset at him, why are you here? I said, because I'm here. Well, first I told him, no, I don't even want him indicted. And he said, well, then why are you here? Well, because I'm here. He's out there. Wondering if you're going to end his career tomorrow. That's all right. I'm glad I'm not in your shoes. I'm glad I don't have to determine if a crime has been committed, and you have enough information to believe that he committed it. I'm glad I don't have to do that. The foreman was so furious he was shaking. So I come back out, and this assistant DA, little short guy, these little short guys that want to be taller, he starts in there. And I said, stop. You don't want to go in there. The grand jury is deliberating on complaints against your boss. You need to keep your behind out of it. But I'm going to go talk to the grand jury. Well, before you do that, you might want to go up to your office, get out your resume, and brush it off. You're gonna need it. He goes in there, he comes out, they no bill. I come there a week later and ask to see this attorney. His name was Brown. Oh, well, he's not with us anymore, he's with an oil company over here. I warned him. Now, the prosecuting attorney, he got no bill, now he's looking at me presenting to another grand jury. Because his moron attorney, it doesn't matter if you talk to him or not, he went in there, that was enough. Doesn't matter if you get him indicted or not. It's the prospect of indictment. Then they change their behavior. I'm gonna work Hale, I think is the guy's name. Swain,
I got a question for you, Randy. Do they have to give you an answer why they don't take your complaint? If you go to the DA and you fill it out properly, do they have to give you a reply? Like in 30 days, or do they have to? They don't. They just never respond.
okay, I'm glad you asked that question.
Okay.
Never go there personally, if you can avoid it. Do everything by mail. There's nothing like having somebody sharpshooting you from a distance. And when I send in criminal complaints, I just filed some criminal complaints against my district attorney and district judge. And the technical designation for these complaints is chicken shit. I put in an information request. I went to the judge and asked to see all of the attorneys on the attorney. He insisted I put in an information request. Judge, I don't want to do that. That makes everything official, puts in all these timelines. I don't want to have this fight. I just want to be able to talk to these attorneys about how to make their job work better. Well, you'll have to put in a written request. So I did. He got the county attorney to ask for an opinion from the state attorney general. He was the district judge. He asked the county attorney to request an opinion. What's wrong with that picture? Who pays the district judge? It's Texas. Who pays the county attorney?
State,
County.
well, the county, okay.
I charge them both with criminal conspiracy and misappropriation of public funds. So I put in an envelope along with 45 criminal complaints against the sheriff's deputies for arresting people and taking them to jail. But I put this letter inside the document to the foreman of the grand jury. And I asked him to initial this document and send it back to him. Please do not sign it. As prosecuting attorneys have rubber stamps with your name on it that they use to rubber stamp indictments. And I want to make sure that you actually got this, so please initial it. And if the seal on this envelope, I have a wax seal, has been broken, check here. Well, you know, as soon as I walked out of the office, the prosecutor opened it. He saw that letter. The seal was already broken. And then the first criminal complaint is against him. Gotcha, Bubba. I don't get the letter back in 7 days. Now, 7 days after the grand jury next meets, if I don't get that letter, then I have reason to believe and do believe that the district attorney secreted criminal complaints against himself from the grand jury. How's that going to look, Bubba? Set them up. Give them every opportunity to school. I do this with federal courts. And it really makes the U.S. attorneys crazy.
So to help us jumpstart, I'm gonna throw this out, and I want your opinion.
Okay, you're going to city council meeting, school board meetings?
What I'm gonna ask is, should we file a criminal complaint against an elected official who we believe approved to have our kids given the shot?
Yes.
Should that be who we filed a criminal complaint against with, find us
Absolutely.
a magistrate to do that?
Give that to a magistrate. You just might find a magistrate that has kids in the same school. It's all politics, guys. Find a magistrate with kids and give the magistrate whatever really credible evidence you have of the potential problems with these. It's my position that a vaccination works a corruption of blood.
Corruption of blood.
Yes.
That's exactly what it does.
Look in your Constitution. That is specifically forbidden by Constitution.
Corruption of blood.
It was put in there to stop whippings.
Stop what?
Stop whippings and beatings.
Where is
You
this?
can't have a punishment that works as corruption. But it works in this case.
Well, lethal injection, you get lethal injection.
Yeah, let the courts rule on it. Let the Supreme Court rule on whether it works a corruption of blood or not. Let's
Because
see
all
what
you
it
have to
costs
do,
us.
Randy, this is important. You just have to have a reason to believe it's a crime. You
Right.
don't have to state the law, right, Randy?
Right.
Okay.
Reason to believe and do believe. I always tell them just specific statute. You need to tell them the specific statute you think they violate.
Right, it's more valid.
And in this case, he exerted, who you maintain, he exerted or purported to exert an authority he does not expressly have. That's your catch-all. 39.03. Actually 39.02 and 03.
You know, speaking of that, with the bar complaints, if you put, like I have reason to believe and do believe that this bar member committed these felonies, and you send it to the state bar as part of the grievance, and then they blow it off, then that makes that they're like accomplices after the fact under 18.
Tried that. Now I can do it with a judicial conduct complaint, but none of the members of the bar association that I know of are judges, are in that position because they're judges. But when you file a judicial conduct complaint, there are members of the commission that are only members of the commission because they are judges. There's a district judge, a county judge, and a municipal judge required to be on the commission. Now, they, in the process of the performance of their duty, have it made known to them that a crime's been committed. I say that invokes their duty as a magistrate.
Well, and speaking of the Judicial Commission, under the Texas Constitution, they have to have 7 of them to make a quorum. And I went and did a public information request to the Secretary of State, and they could only produce 5 of them that had valid oaths. So what's up with that?
Well, if the 2 that don't have a valid oath,
Well, there's actually like 12, I think, on the commission.
any of them that don't have a valid oath that sit in a meeting, they should get impersonating a public official.
Well, and
That's a felony, 37.11.
And then on top of that, how can they even, if they don't have enough for a quorum, I mean, how can they conduct any business?
Exactly.
The whole commission is a fraud.
You know that anyway. That's the way to get at them. That's the way to get at them.
Yeah.
Let them go to court, let them show why they can do what they can do, what they've been doing.
Right, so,
You start these, you start it, it becomes a real problem. Especially if they've got some no good rotten pro se, standing on their heads, watching every move they make. It's all political.
right.
Randy, is it also a crime for the state or a county to pay someone to take a vaccination? Can they give incentives like donuts,
Right,
$50? In
I would
that
call that-
Or a
conflict
new
of
car,
interest?
or a ticket to be in a lottery.
39.
That's what they're doing.
College tuition.
Vaccines now.
They're giving incentives to get these vaccinations.
$50 that made them the other.
39.02 is
How about in New York, they were
misappropriation.
giving the marijuana cigarettes, you know?
39.02, misappropriation of public funds.
Exactly.
Texas has 2 statutes. Most states have 1 that encompasses both. The statutes they have are a recodification of the Ku Klux Klan Act. 18 U.S. Code 242 and 18 U.S. Code 242 and 42 U.S. Code 1983.
Well, that one, well, 19, I remember 1983 too.
Ku
so-
Klux Klan Act,
Civil rights.
1871, allowed a gave a private citizen a cause of action against a public official for failing to perform a duty he is required to perform or exerting or purporting to exert authority he didn't have. That's the second half of the Ku Klux Klan Act. The first half made it a crime. think in US Code 242, 243, and there's several of them in there. Screws v. US, 1945 is the one that reactivated and got that thing. It was never used until 1945. Great case. I was in court on a traffic ticket, and I asked the officer, "Are you insane?" Objection, objection. The judge, his name was Plum Raspberry. One of my favorite human beings.
For real?
Yeah, really, Plum Raspberry. And
What the?
Well, you'd have
the
to have
judge
a chip on your shoulder.
said, "Mr. Kelton, what's that about?" And I told him under Screws v. US, the federal court said that if a public official violates a ruling of this court and he be sane, he may not be heard to say he knows not what he does. And the judge said, "Oh, answer the question." That jury found me incredibly guilty. I knew the foreman personally, and he stood up, "We, the jury, find the defendant incredibly guilty." Plum said, "Incredibly guilty?" "Yes, Your Honor, incredibly guilty." But it was worth it. Anyway, the point is, you can go after them. And this 3902, 3903 should have it memorized. They are the catch-all. Anything a public official does that's outside the scope of his authority, you can nail them criminally, both of them are Class A misdemeanors.
That's all in the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure?
I'm sorry,
No?
no, those two are penal code.
Those Texas Penal Code, yeah.
Okay.
That one, those two, anything they screw up in the Code of Criminal Procedure, you can nail them under one of these two. It's almost always 39.03. In Texas, they call that one official oppression.
Official
I like it.
oppression?
Official oppression.
What's the penalty for official?
It's such a juicy sounding
What's the
word.
penalty, criminal penalty for official?
Oppression.
$1,000 fine, year in jail.
Class
So
A.
It's a
Class A misdemeanor.
misdemeanor.
And then what's the other one you use a lot with the, where you're giving legal advice, you use that a lot? Where they'll tell you, you need to
Okay,
do this. you need to do that.
38.123.
Say again?
Now, it sounds like when I'm doing this, the guys are looking and say, "Hey, you got the code memorized." No, I don't. There are about half a dozen here that we use over and over and over.
Right.
You know, you ask me these different questions, and I just pull them out. That's because I've been asked that question so many times.
Yeah.
Once you've been through this a time or two, my suggestion is, get out the penal code and read it. Don't try to understand it, just read it. Trying to understand it's difficult because they write laws as they come to them, and they put them in for the feds, it's the National Register, and the public laws. In Texas, it's in the public laws, just a list of all the laws. Well, they're all scrambled. So they went to these publishing companies and say, "We want you to go through the public laws and organize them into categories." So they organize them into categories. But what you're looking at are codes that were written all kind of in different times and different perspectives. They tried to organize them so they all fit together. But it's not always clear how they fit. For instance, if you read the Code of Criminal Procedure, it says that who are magistrates 2.09, 210. It's the duty of the magistrate to keep the peace in the state of Texas by all legal means. 211, when the judge sits to examine into a criminal accusation, that is a examining court. Well, that all makes sense to you the first time you read it. The second time you read it, examining court, they're referring to chapter 16, way back here. That's an examining court. So read the whole thing through. Don't try to understand it, just read it.
In her book, License to Lie, attorney Sidney Powell, who has been protecting the president, but then she's also been working on the court.
Yeah, I get emails from her.
Voting. She's written another book, but what she proved when she wrote that book in 2014, and it reads like a whodunit. She was involved with the big cases of putting people in jail and they died there because the attorneys had changed the laws and they had lawful right to lie. So license to lie is how they've actually changed the rules, and that's why part of what happened now is what's going on.
Okay.
So I'm trying.
I think there's a
I'm reason-
misreading of
Yeah.
that code. Most of these
Yeah.
lawyers read those codes from a civil perspective.
Yeah.
You should read them from a criminal perspective.
Again, she's a military attorney, but she's a federal attorney.
Hold on.
Yeah,
There's a point I was going to that led me away from it.
sorry.
I'll get to that in a second. It's a more subtle problem than what we're talking about. Taking public officials on. Do you remember where I was at?
It's criminal, think of it
Criminal.
criminally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking at it from our perspective,
Yeah.
looking at it from civil as opposed to criminal.
Okay, listen, civil as opposed to criminal.
I'm sorry.
What you can do in a civil court, like I spoke earlier that we asked the judge for a findings of fact and conclusions at law, and he didn't produce it. Well, if you do that in a civil court, they don't care. The result of that is that the trial court will not disqualify you for not having an accurate record. In order to appeal, you have to know what facts the judge relied on and what law he applied to those facts. That's what findings of fact and conclusions of law is about. If he don't give it to you, then the trial court, technically you don't have grounds to appeal, but the trial court will extrapolate that from the court record. Well, they can do that if they want to. But 297 says the judge shall produce. 3903 says the public official fails to perform a duty he is required to perform. Shall does not mean may, might, or can if he wants to. That places a specific duty. Well, whatever the Court of Appeals thinks about it, I don't care. I want to see what a grand jury thinks about it. And the judge, if a lawyer lies in court and the court says that's okay, that's the trial court, and I don't care about them. I want to go to the grand jury and see what they think about that nonsense. That's totally different. And I look at these cases and I hear these high-level officials talking about crimes these people have been committing. Nobody's filing complaints. Everybody seems to be on this path. I want to take another path over here. There's actually two paths to rivet. The one they absolutely do not want us to go down is the grand jury path. And they're going to do everything they can to shield the grand jury from it. At least we hope they do. That's when they try. They just create more cannon fodder for us to throw in. Everything's political. Look at politics. I got all the highest judges in Texas put in front of the grand jury in 2008 because of this habeas. They denied me leave to file a habeas corpus. That was chicken poop. I mean, really minor. They had been doing this for at least 25 years. If you were pro se and you filed a habeas corpus, Court of Criminal Appeals would ask for a motion to leave to file, and they would do it. They would deny leave every time. All the lawyers out there knew they were doing this, and they knew it was illegal. Every lawyer who filed a habeas was required to file this motion, and they knew it was illegal. But not one of them dared stand up to the highest court in Texas. It took a pro se. It took a pro se. I told the judge once, I had a lawyer next to me, and I barred her if she was famous. She said, "Mr. Kelton, are you an attorney?" Oh, I couldn't sleep well at night and keep my hands on pockets. I turned to the judge and his sides. I'm not here dangling by my bar card. I'm telling the judge, I don't care if you're happy or not. You mess with me, I'll stick it up. You'll break it off. And that was the judge in South Fort Worth. I get his name now. He accused me of looking in the courtroom, the window of the courtroom door threateningly.
That's a tough one. Through the glass. I was scared out of my mind.
He really did that. The bailiffs come out They wanted to talk to me, and they said that, and I started laughing. I said, are you really gonna arrest me for looking at the judge threateningly? How are you gonna write that up, guys? And the sergeant said, just never mind. Okay. We have incredible power with these guys. And, you know, I'm looking at these rulings these school boards are trying to give up. Man, these guys are hanging themselves out to dry. They obviously don't understand how much power those people standing out there have. And the thing I like to do most is call 911 when they least expect it. I don't want to go to those meetings, because if I go to one of those meetings, I'm going to hear some crap and I'm going to call 911. You call 911 first, now you've got them coming out to answer your complaint. You get to see what we call this little chicken dance. You call the officer out, I want you to arrest him. He's one of my buddies, I can't arrest him. Oh, well, Mr. Kelton, they start shifting from one foot to the other. I get tickled. They're wondering what I'm laughing about. I don't want to tell them. Humor is one of the most powerful tools you have for doing this. The problem with humor is clearly you're not upset. They are, you're not, and they're wondering, what does this guy know that I don't know? And they can never accuse you of being agitated if you're joking with them while you're sticking out looking like this. I tell you, the biggest problem we have is, you know, I do a radio show to people all over the country doing this. The most recent is Bob in California. I have to keep telling him, Bob, you gotta slow down. You're having way too much fun. And he said, yes, I am. That's when you pick the fight. Don't let them pick it. Don't let them throw you out. Don't get upset at them and raise your voice and get angry.
Right.
Set them up. Yeah. Lay it out for them, set them up, get them to step across the legal line, and then call them.
That's a hell of a lot sweeter anyway.
Yeah.
You should have seen the clerk in Arlington when I called 911. She's not believing this is happening.
What'd you accuse her? What was?
Oh, I asked her if she's some records, and she asked me if I was the accused. Oh, no, I'm a good guy. I never do wrong stuff. She said, well, you're an attorney. Oh, no. I said, well, then I keep my hands on pockets. Well, you're not the, you weren't here when I talked about it. Said, if you're not the lawyer or the accused, you can't see these. Oh, wow. You shouldn't have said that. Never give fair warning. Bushwhack is so much better. I call the bailiff over and asked him to arrest her.
But how can you compel the peace officer to actually put on handcuffs and arrest somebody? It never happens,
He
right?
refused to arrest her.
Right.
And he told me, well, if you're not the lawyer or the accused, you can't see those. Oh, you shouldn't have said that either. I take out my cell phone, and he said, you can't use that phone in here. I looked up at him and said, are you going to interfere with the 911 call? That's a felony.
And they're all free.
And the clerk said, just leave him alone. He's trying to get you to do something, so he's trying to get you arrested. Sorry, hon. Too late for that.
Too late for that.
And then I get this sergeant come out. What can I do for you? I need you to arrest him and her. Well, why would I arrest them? Class A misdemeanor official oppression, criminal violation 39.03 Penal Code, in that they exerted or purported to exert authority they did not express have in the process of denying me full free access to or enjoyment of the right to arrest them. And he's blah, blah. And when I was in Johnson County last time, I asked one of the bailiffs to arrest the district judge. Why did I arrest the district judge? I said, misdemeanor official oppression. I went through the whole thing, and she said, don't give me all those statutes. All I deal with are the elements. I leaned over and said, I just gave you the elements.
Oh, that's true. What else is there but
Oh,
that?
I did this in front of all of her underlings. But she handled herself well. She didn't lose her cool. That's good. She gathered herself up. I stepped right square in the middle of her. I was doing my best to push her over the edge. And she wasn't going there. You remember the female sergeant? Remember her? I think she was lesbian. But that wasn't she just had that more of a man type look about her. But she was very pleasant, very polite, very professional. When she went to get me a voluntary statement of attorneys other bailiffs, and I told them, she handled me really well. And I'd like to be handled well. You could learn from her. And I do like to be handled well.
What about the peace officers? How are they? Do they ever arrest them? Do they actually ever arrest these people? Or are they compelled? I mean,
No.
That's what I'm asking.
No, they never arrest them.
Okay.
But what happens is,
So when they don't arrest them?
what happens is you take this guy that does something on the bottom,
Okay.
and you call this other guy to come out and arrest him, and he doesn't. Now you forget about this guy. You land on this guy. You go after him with his bosses. And when his bosses try to run interference for him, you go to his boss. Municipal cops, I want to charge the mayor with official oppression because of what his officers did. He is not going to be a happy camper. It's all politics. They're not going to be
So
afraid.
at some point, one of them backs down and you're off
Well,
from having arrested him.
I never get arrested. I get behavior change. In Wise County, Texas, you cannot tie a sheriff's deputy up and throw him at him. They don't want anything to do with me. If they know somebody knows me, they don't want anything to do with them. This is better than getting rid of them. I was in court today, and the officer in the case, sitting next to a ex-police officer, they tried to fire him. He was a patriot. He came to me. He was off full pay for a year. We forced him to get his job back. So looking across at the officer, he said, "That's Officer stopped me by the house one day." And when they told his name was Petty. I said, "Oh, that's the guy I called 911 on." And I had a woman that had, her and her boyfriend were driving. They got in a fight. He stole me her ribs really bad. She called me to get her from the hospital. She's working on her home. She's freaking out. She's in shock. And she's hollering at the deputy. And he's playing standard macho deputy. And I stepped up in between them and I said, "You need to get her up your professionalism. This woman's in shock and you're exasperating. You need to de-escalate this and not create a problem that shouldn't be here. You need to step back or I'll arrest you." Told him what he was doing. He was escalating this. She's got 3 broken ribs, not cracked. If he causes her to get agitated and punctures one of those ribs that bleeds out here, you and he are responsible. She said, "Can you give him the phone?" "Yes." "Here, I want to talk to you." I don't know what she said to her. Gave me back my phone and asked her if she would step inside the motorhome and talk to her. When he come out, he had her perfectly lined out. He knew what to do. He just didn't want to. I suspect that the next time he runs across this, now he's got experience on how to do it right. That's our job. I'm not there to get public officials fired or out of their jobs. I'm there to get them to follow the rules. So when you ask me how many did I get indicted, I haven't got any indicted. I don't want to. That's why I filed crapola. My district judge, I came to challenge the grand jury pool. And I didn't know what it was. And he impaneled the grand jury without giving me the opportunity to challenge it. And when he came down off the bench, I said, "Ron, you need to call that grand jury pool back in here, disband the grand jury, give me a chance to challenge the grand jury pool, and then receive the grand jury." And he got real nasty with it. Finally had to tell the bailiff, "Mr. Bailiff, arrest this man." Well, his bailiff, Dick Woods, took 3 steps backwards. He didn't want anything to do with that. The sergeant stepped up, grabbed me by the arm, looked down and said, "Mr. Bailiff, I see you're packing." Always what to tell him. Yes, Mr. Kelton, I am. Tell me, is that pistol loaded? Yes, Mr. Kelton, it is. I started to ask him, are you fixing to pull that pistol on me? The judge got it. And he said, Mr. Baker, you can stand down. Sorry, Bubba. Too late.
Too late.
The judge passed away shortly after that, of a heart attack. But when he died, he had first-degree felony aggravated assault charges against him in front of a grand jury. Let's dance, guys. Maybe they would have done you. Or maybe there's one grand juror on there that you just threw his granddaughter in the clinker, and he wants to get back at you. That's all it takes.
Only takes one in a grand jury?
Pardon?
Only takes one person?
One person to turn the rest of the grand jury.
That's right. There's a movie about the runaway jury. It's about a grand jury that the prosecutors got control. They were saying, bring this guy in here, we got some questions for him.
Awesome actors.
It's a runaway jury.
Yes.
John Grisham.
That's the problem with grand jurors. Now, prosecutors said, those darn grand jurors, you never know what they're gonna do. In Austin, I asked to see the minutes of the grand jury. When the grand jury comes in, they read the fact of the true bill onto the record, and the clerk shall make notes in the minutes of the court. I want to see those minutes. They got me the minutes. Every set of minutes I looked at had no bills.
And no one.
No bills.
No what?
No bills.
No bills, okay, thank you.
So all these people saying that the prosecutor controls the grand jury, no, he doesn't. The grand jury is the genius of our founders. That is what gives us the power to change everything. You absolutely cannot control a grand jury. You never know what they're going to do.
The key is to get it in front of them, though.
Yeah. Or not. You don't even get further. Just making grand jury noises terrifies them.
Randy, a grand jury can be composed of your peers. Why couldn't we form our own grand jury
Right.
and do it ourselves?
You could have before 1965. I'm sorry, 1865. But now we have statutory grand juries, and they preempt common law grand jury. If you try that, you'll be in front of the statutory grand jury.
So how do you get a grand jury together? I assume you are.
Oh, we're in Texas. We have the best area. Other states, prosecutor has to do it. Pennsylvania, the district judge and the prosecutor can convene one if they feel like they need it. Michigan doesn't have one at all.
Does that have anything to do with us becoming a corporation?
Wait, say that again?
No.
Does that have anything to do with us becoming a corporation?
Yeah, you know, all this stuff about corporation. The court's incorporated. But that's so you can buy toilet paper. Pay as hell, take care of the business of the court. When that judge steps up behind the bench, he does that in his constitutional capacity. The fact that there's a corporation somewhere had nothing to do with his constitution. That's an issue I fight with a lot. This patriot movement wants to make up stuff. And that's why I've got this rule, never make a proactive statement of law out of your own mouth. I get these guys calling into my show, and generally they leave making up new pet names for me, which I won't. A friend of mine called me from North Carolina. He said, I tuned into your show today and heard my two favorite people on earth on the radio at the same time. You and Ralph Winterud. Ralph Winterud is an investigator, a researcher out of Alaska. Very well known. Good researcher. I said, oh, you heard that, huh? Yeah, I did. You were crawling down Ralph's throat. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I was. He come on my show telling people that the statutes don't apply.
Did that what?
Statutes don't apply. So, well, what applies, Ralph? Oh, you ought to go to the National Register. Well, that's really nice, Ralph. The National Register is about 65,000 pages. You want to be a little bit more specific. Oh, well, you just have to go to the National Register. Don't come on my show telling people that the statutes don't apply. It feels like the statutes apply. And these guys with guns, well, they think it applies. And these judges think it applies. And it'll feel like it applies when they throw your butt in a can. Right. When he hung up. Well, he was right. The statutes are not the law. We have the public laws. And then we've had the publishers codify the public laws into a set of codes. The codes are not the law, but to the degree that the code accurately reflects the intent of the public law, they do apply. And he's telling people to do things that these patriot guys keep telling people how the law doesn't apply, how you can use the common law in place of the statutory law. Well, before 1865, you might be able to, 63, you might be able to do that. Not now. And that's okay. There is not a remedy I need that's not in that code. And when I pull my remedy out of that code, I can cram it right down there as sports. If I try to pull my remedy somewhere else, I'm going to wind up in jail. The last thing I want for anybody, Father, what I suggest, go to jail. That's my biggest concern. Okay? This patriot movement, I've been called all over the country to get people out of jail for following these prescriptions. Then when I talked to the guy that told me, well, they didn't dot this I exactly this way or across this T, all this crapola that they didn't tell them. And then when I look at it, it's still crapola. Had two guys call me out of North Carolina. Well, actually, Robert Fox. Anybody ever heard of Robert Fox?
Yep.
Robert called. You've got two guys in North Carolina. The feds are coming after them. I said, well, what for? Well, they filed some liens against public officials. Well, what was the underlying cause? Traffic. What were the liens? $5 trillion. Guys, what were you thinking? And the feds are after me. He said, what do you think? I said, they're going to win. Oh, you think they'll win? Oh, yeah, they'll win. But first they'll be dieseled around the country for a couple of years. Then once they've lost their house, their family, everything they got, then the feds just drop the case. That's what they do. Be careful how you handle
So
yourself.
they went wrong by asking too much, or
Pardon?
they went wrong by the amount? That's where they went wrong?
Well, they had no standing to file the lien. There was a weakness in the law that allowed people to file liens.
You have to make sure you have standing.
Yes, you have to have standing to file the lien. If you hire me to do work on your house and don't pay me, that creates a lien as a matter of law. And what I filed in the record is a notice of that lien that already exists. So these guys are saying, you harmed me, and that creates a lien. And I'm filing notice of that lien in the record. That destroys the credit. But they made up the lien. There was nothing in law to support them. It was just a weakness in the law. We got that fixed. And I just used the law that they put in to fix that against them. I love it when it works that way. Have you ever been summoned to court to make a deal with the prosecutor? Anybody who's ever been arrested and don't make a deal, they call you over and over and over. Well, 2801 lists all those things you could order someone to come to court for. The first one is an arraignment.
Is what?
Arraignment.
Arraignment.
Judicial.
And under 2601, it says an arraignment shall be held in the matter of a felony or a misdemeanor punishable by imprisonment. Class C misdemeanor was specifically exempted. Why they did that, I have no idea. But a JP or a municipal judge cannot summon you to court for any reason other than to hear a motion or opinion before the court. There are 11 things.
So a pretrial wouldn't apply. If they couldn't, the prosecutor going to say, well, no, you lose.
Where'd you come up with that, Mr. Prosecutor? I don't see pretrial in the codes anywhere. Look at 2801. They all go to motions and pleadings before the court. That's it. So if they summon you for some reason other than those 10 things in 2801, that's an abusive process. 3246. Or simulating a legal process, 3248. They put those two in to stop the Republic of Texas directly from filing these liens. Now I get to use it against them. I love it when they do stuff like that. And if you file a lien, and I have reason to believe that the lien is fraudulent, and I notice you to release that lien, if you don't do it within 60 days, that's a class A misdemeanor, 3247. These were all put in there because of these liens people have been filing. Now I get to use it against them. Most all the stuff they do that way turns back on. Any other questions?
Just about the, how do you get convening a grand jury?
Wait, say that again?
How do you convene a grand jury? How do you get a
You
grand
don't.
jury?
What is necessary?
You have to
You
take
don't. A grand
take your
jury
issue
in
to-
Texas are convened all the time.
How do you do it?
Every county has a grand jury.
Oh, they meet regularly?
Yeah, like, I'm in Wise County, they meet once a month.
Okay.
In some of the really small counties, they meet once every 6 months.
About once a month.
Who determines how they're established? I think it's the question.
The judge does. He,
The district, what judge?
he's generally be a district judge, like in Johnson County, it's Bosworth.
Okay.
He handles a grand jury, but all he does is convene a grand jury and set times when they sit to hear criminal complaints.
But-
Beyond that,
But the county judge is the only one that has the legitimate right to convene grand jury. Is that
no,
what
no,
you're saying?
district judge,
District judge,
Yeah.
okay.
not county.
So the
And
grand
they're
jury,
elected?
where do they meet usually? Like it'll be in the county courthouse or something like that?
Always a jury, a grand jury.
Or are they elected, the district judge is elected or appointed?
Yes, district judges are all elected, county judges are elected.
Yeah, okay.
JPs are elected, municipal judges are the only ones that
Yeah,
are not.
okay.
If you look in the courthouse too, like when I was at Johnson County yesterday, they say grand jury meets on the first floor in this room or something like that.
Yeah, they usually
It
meet
tells
basement.
where they meet at.
Yeah. But you can't get in there. There's going to be a bailiff there with scars on his knuckles. But you don't need to. You don't need to get to the grand jury. Grand jury noises makes them all crazy.
So you mail everything in.
Yeah. I don't really like to get in their face. I really like to dance with them. But I'm an old combat vet. And I've brought back this addiction to adrenaline. I love to be on the edge. But 3 dislocated ribs, 2 broken collarbones, broken elbow and 2 teeth knocked out, various other scrapes and bruises. I got too old for that kind of crap. So I try to avoid it now. But the best way to do it is sharpshooting.
What?
Sharpshooting.
From a distance.
Sharpshooting from a distance.
Reach out and touch
somebody.
Mail them,
And
email them. My
You need to
co-host,
define your terms.
my co-host worked Wise County over, and they have never seen it. My son-in-law is a JP. He come to me, who is this guy? Well, he's my co-host. Well, why is he doing this? I don't know. I asked him. He didn't come to me. He said, doing this. So they got this guy hammering them. They don't know who he is. They don't know what they're dealing with. They have no clue. And always, they will imagine something worse than you will do. That's what happened in Williamson County. They all imagined something far worse than what they had in front of them because they had no clue. Never give fair warning. Don't explain yourself. You are the master, they're the servants. They want to ask me questions. No questions. And the more distance you can give, the more powerful you'll be. I know you like to get in their face. You like to tell them how the cow ate the cabbage. Yeah, that feels good. But at the end, it doesn't win. What wins is I call Minnesota. This woman called me. She's in a divorce against her rich husband. She's in chemotherapy, and the judge is forcing her to represent herself because her lawyer had a heart attack. She's trying to get a continuance, and he won't give it to her. She said she had to leave the courtroom twice to throw up. I said, why'd you leave the courtroom? Why did you throw up? You're only in the courtroom.
Really?
She called me back and she threw up on opposing counsel's table. So I called down there and told her, I got a hold of the judge's clerk and told her that, I've got a camera crew. I'm a radio talk show host in Austin, and we're doing some reports on corruption in the courts, and I've got a camera crew going up to Michigan because they're trying to kill a guy in jail. So But I also understand that, you know, there's a judge in Minnesota trying to murder a woman by forcing her to represent herself in court while she's dying of cancer. And the clerk said, well, I don't think that's happening. Oh, who cares? It's a great story. But I can't see anything bad about the judge unless I give him an opportunity to rebut. So I'd like to send my crew up and do a 10-minute YouTube interview. Well, I'll talk to the judge. I never heard from him. This is Friday. Monday morning, they go into the court, said everybody's in there. The judge stormed in the courtroom, grabbed the gavel, and said, 60-day continuance. You have an attorney when you come back. Bam! And stormed out of the courtroom. They had no idea what they were dealing with. They weren't dealing with anything. I was lying to them. But they had no idea.
Actually, they do
Always
was.
imagined something.
Exactly.
The guy in Michigan, got a hold of the head of jail. I understand you got Ed Gosner in there and you're trying to murder him in jail, withholding
Once
his
it hits the media,
hardness.
it's over.
Because he turned state's evidence on the North Carolina prosecutor. I went through the whole routine with him. I want to do a YouTube interview, blah, blah, blah. 2 hours later, I get a call. What did you do? He was in Michigan to visit his brother and they arrested him. I said, I just aggravated him a little while. Why you got him on a plane back to North Carolina? 2 hours.
Wow. Wow.
When they don't know what
And
to
any
do.
one of us could do this. It's not just because they know you. They know
Okay,
who
you are all officially
Perception is everything.
investigative reporters for WTPN
Perception.
radio.
Yeah, cool.
You can all represent yourself as reporters for Real Law Radio, and I will support that.
Back it.
Make you up a little name tag. When I go in with a name tag that says Real Law Radio, press across it, the judge can't look at me. He's just staring at that press pass. Sunshine's the worst thing for him.
Judge can't do this. Let's say we all went to the courtroom. He can't say, I'm only allowed 3 in. He can't keep us from coming in the courtroom if we want to go in.
Well, he
Correct?
can, but then he can dance in the courts with us for the next 6 months to a year. We file criminal against him. And if you get 10 people in there and you all file judicial conduct complaints against them, the commission's going to get tired of hearing these complaints. And if you couple those complaints with criminal affidavits, and then when the judges don't act on the affidavits, you go after the judges on the commission, they're really going to be peeled.
And they can't make you sign in and put your name if you're an attorney.
You know,
Most of them
I
have a
was in
sheet that
court.
wants you to put your name on it.
I was there to get my stupid brother-in-law out again, and I'm waiting for him to bring him up. I put up the bail, and they're having this little cattle call hearing, and I went and sat down in the courtroom. And I'm just sitting there making notes, doing something else. The bailiff comes over and says, sir, he goes, do you have business with this court? Yeah. He said, well, who are you? None of your business, get lost. I want to know who you are. And I stood up in the courtroom and said, Your Honor. They're up there having a hearing. He stopped. What's going on here? Your Honor, this man won't tell me who he is. And he looked at me and he said, sir, do you mind if I ask who you are? Oh, no, I don't mind. My name's Randy Kelfer. Do you mind if I ask what you're doing in my courtroom? Oh, I'm just here for entertainment. He said, entertainment? Yes. Well, the judge got it. Not your business.
Yeah.
I don't need to tell you. And he turned to the bailiff. Oh, Mr. Bailiff, leave him alone. We're not. The judges don't have that much power. And they know it. If you don't have a cause in that case, that judge better be real careful. I went into the court today, and the judge in there knows I'm coming after him big time. I just filed those 2 crappy complaints against, he was the judge I filed against. And he knows I had first-degree felony aggravated assault charges against the judge before him. But he could not have been more careful with me. Once you get their attention,
Right.
the last thing he wants is anybody to sit me on him. I want all of you like that.
Right.
That's when we'll start getting results. Any other questions, or would you like me to
It
go?
seems like that same intimidation that you're talking about with them is how they control us.
Yeah.
They just intimidate the hell out of you, and you think you have no rights, and you just cow down to what they tell you to do. because it doesn't really matter what the law is or what's done. They got the guns, and if they violate the law,
That's why
big
it's-
deal, they don't care.
That's why I say the best fight to have is one you pick. You go in and pick the fight, they got nothing. They got no way to come at you. Now you're constantly going at them. And yeah, they want you to feel
Yeah,
like they have all the authority. But I'm hoping, I had one up here.
Well, I was gonna ask you, if you have somebody that's like, that you know has got multiple things, like, you know, should you file one criminal complaint, including all of those, or should you file multiple separate complaints so that it loads that up on?
Each complaint separate. You can gang all your complaints together with one document. Never do that.
Right on.
You gang them all together in one document, they'll deal with one of them and ignore the rest.
Right.
Each one a separate filing.
I hear you.
And best to separate them by a few days.
That was worth its weight, right?
And if, for an example, you have 5 and you spell one wrong, they'll throw it out because it's no good. We don't even know what it is. What I'm saying is that all they gotta do is find one wrong and the whole sheet's right. I'd rather have 5 with one on it than if I made a mistake, I got 5 bites at the apple. That's my opinion.
So is this criminal complaint form online that we can get to?
Yes, this is yours in prudence. Website, go to documents and research. And in there, you will file, the best folder is the Cherokee County folder. In that folder, there are about 35 criminal complaints. But at the top, there's a,
No?
okay, go to Cherokee County. Criminal, oh, there it is. Now go to criminal complaints. Okay, complaints. Where do you go? This is there.
Oh, there's a bunch of them there.
Okay, what I want to see, there is a affidavit in there. Criminal. That's not really the one I want. Surf through Judicial.website. I got all kinds of stuff in there. Back out of that.
Cherokee County Clerk.
Try that one. There we go.
Complaints,
Yeah.
7Z or just complaints? Wow,
There
lots
it
of
is.
There is a group out there, it's a,
Okay,
something society
one
that
is
has a,
affidavit.
is trying to bring back the constitutional grand jury.
See?
And they require you to take a civics course, an online civics course, and then you become qualified to become part of that. And they're instituting this in, you know, several of the states, you know, they've got a very strong foothold. And they're even writing, they've gotten powerful enough now where they're even writing letters to courts, and, you know, courts are paying heed that you know, they might truly come under a bona fide, you know, Article 3, Chapter 2, you know.
Yeah, I've had them approach me and I've looked through some of their
You know
documentation.
what I'm speaking about, yeah.
But I'm still dubious about the actual effect of that, how much authority it has. I'm concerned it'll wind up, they'll treat it as advisory and not as compelling.
Because from the way I understand it, the grand jury doesn't need a judge or a prosecutor.
No.
That they have the authority to
Scalia,
call and you know, review everything within the jury itself.
Scalia in Montgomery v. U.S. said that essentially the grand jury is a fourth branch of government, while the district court impanels a grand jury. Once that grand jury is impaneled, the court has no authority over the court. You best not try to exert it. The grand jury is an entity all on its own. Prosecutors do everything they can to limit the grand jury's power and authority and effect. Prosecutors feel like they should be the ones that make a determination as to whether or not to prosecute. Well, our founders considered that situation and absolutely forbade it. Absolutely not. The only reason they put a grand jury in place is to protect us from the prosecuting attorney.
What would be the process by which you would get a grand jury or file a complaint to the grand jury for crimes against humanity, for instance, and who would get that to move forward through the system?
Well, once you file a complaint, you have no standing. Now, if we were in England, or one of the English territories, you have standing as a common law public official, and you can actually file a criminal appearance notice. And in Pennsylvania, you have standing. Because in Pennsylvania, the prosecuting attorney has first blush. He can look at a complaint, determine whether or not he believes there's sufficient evidence to believe that a crime has been committed and the named person committed it. Since they don't have a grand jury, only the judge or the prosecuting attorney can convene a grand jury. You don't have direct access. You have this other opportunity. When you file a complaint, you have standing. If the prosecuting attorney decides not to prosecute, then you can appeal to the Court of Common Pleas. And if they decide not to prosecute, you can appeal all the way up to the
Now, we're talking about Texas, we're talking about Pennsylvania.
This is Pennsylvania. That one's unique. In Texas, you have no standing.
So what do?
You have a duty to give notice to a grand jury. If you file your complaint that goes to the grand jury and they no bill, you're done. I filed against the governor,
But
and they no bill, I'm done.
we could not file in Pennsylvania, though.
Yeah, you couldn't file it. You can't go to a grand
You
jury.
have to be a resident
No.
to file.
Oh, you can't file? No. As far as I know, there are no residency requirements. If you wanted to file criminal charges against the governor of Pennsylvania,
Well, I'm not talking about against the government, I'm talking about corporations and individuals for crimes against humanity.
if that corporation or individual, if the case would have, if the Pennsylvania would have jurisdiction, but if it's an international corporation, they're not. It's going to be
So the
diversity.
corporation has to have operations in the state more than likely.
They have
or
minimum- minimum contacts.
Or have done the crimes within the
Within the
state.
state,
And then you could enlarge it to include the entire country. You can,
No, that would get into diversity of jurisdiction. That puts you in the federal court.
okay. And
A
then,
large corporation, you're almost never going to get them in a state court anyway.
yeah.
You're always going to get diversity
So
of
if we're
jurisdiction.
going to do it in a federal venue, how would you go about
We
it?
can do that. I'd love to beat up juries. Feds are low-hanging fruit.
What's that?
So the feds are low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Okay, the way you do feds, what I like to do is beat them up in the state, get them to screw up all they can in the state. Like what I've told these guys I'm suing, don't worry guys, I'm not after you. Yeah, you kind of kicked this soapbox up under my feet, I'd have rather done this in Dallas, but since you started the fight, I really don't care about you guys. I'm just trying to run the courts through the ringers and get them to screw up as much as they can so I can bring everybody to the federal courts and everything. So that's to make them have a really good reason to want to make this go away. But take them to the federal court. When you do that, you make up a criminal complaint. But it has to be a federal complaint. It has to be able to reach the
There
feds.
doesn't need to be an attorney that handles it.
No. What you do is you make up a complaint, you send it to the special agent in charge of your local FBI. The reason for the special agent in charge is that's the only one whose name you can get. All the other FBI agents, they hide their names now. I was in Philadelphia, and there to file some complaints about some shenanigans that were going on. And I asked the agent his name. He kind of ducked his head and he said, we can't reveal our names. Say what? He's sitting there, he's got this garish blue tie on. So we have secret police now? So what do I call you? Secret agent blue tie? And the guy just looked, he was clearly mortified by it. But you can't find any names except the special agent in charge. His name is on the website. So you send it to him. Send a criminal complaint to him with a cover letter and insure it for $500. Cost you $10. Oh, this is right. So you put a cover letter on it with a stamped self-addressed envelope and ask him to initial this cover letter and send it back to you so that you'll know he actually got it. If you don't get that cover letter back within, say, a week, then you have reason to believe he didn't get it. So you call the postal inspectors, you want $500. So the postal inspectors are going to run down there and force them to admit they got it. And the postal inspectors, the feds treat them like Eric's stepchildren.
We need to talk some more.
You give the postal inspectors a crack at them, they're going. I had a friend who was in mail order years ago, and he said, "You think the FBI is bad? You ain't lived until you had postal inspectors after you." So we stick them on the courts. Okay. Then, when you don't get any notice back from the special agent in charge of what the disposition of this case was, then you take a criminal complaint against the special agent in charge, and you file it with the grand jury at the address of the U.S. Attorney. And you put that in an envelope, and you put a cover letter on that one. And you ask the foreman to initial this. Please don't sign it, because U.S. attorneys have a rubber stamp with your name on it that they use to rubber stamp superseding indictments.
Rubber stamp what?
Superseding indictments.
Superseding.
This is what they do.
Okay.
They get enough on someone to get an indictment for anything. They don't care how minor it is. Once they have an indictment, then they start doing their research. And as they find more crimes and more people involved, the U.S. Attorney just creates the indictment itself and rubber stamps it. So we've caught them doing that. So you put in your letter to initial this, don't sign it, because the U.S. Attorney rubber stamps your superseding indictments. And we want you to send this back to us because we have a lot of problems with U.S. attorneys seeking criminal complaints from public officials, against public officials from the grand jury. Well, you just told the foreman the shenanigans that the U.S. attorneys are pulling. What do you think the likelihood of you getting that letter back is? So, if you don't get that one back, you stick the postal inspectors on them, and then you make up another one. And this one, you accuse the U.S. attorney of secreting your previous complaint from the grand jury. And you do the same thing. So the U.S. attorney opens this one, and he's looking at criminal complaints against him. And he's just, it's addressed to the grand jury, and he just opened it. That's when he says, "These guys set me up." Yeah, we did. The next complaint goes to the U.S. Attorney General, the U.S. Attorney General in D.C.
Now, if we flip over from the criminal side to the civil side for the same cause, what are your thoughts?
Civil is totally different. I can do.
For instance, a class action lawsuit.
I just avoid class action. To break apart the class. Blow up the whole suit. And make a deal with one or two members of the class, break apart the class, and collapse the whole suit. Do a private attorney general suit. A lot of guys out there talking about private attorney generals.
We got a meeting. Oh, Ms. Ruth. We can kind of wrap
How
it
much
up.
time?
Well, she has about an hour, but she has a pretty good sized presentation.
No, I actually agree with you on the class action stuff too. And I was a little bit of what you're talking about. I didn't get to hear your whole thing, but I don't know if you know about the Flynn method at all, but I would love to have be part of our class here.
Margie?
Yeah, Margie and Jack, and what they just did.
The seminar was in Austin.
Yeah, we're hoping they're coming back with the frontline doctors to Central Texas pretty soon. So yeah.
I understand that they've got a seminar set up somewhere. Just talk to talked about it on that telegram.
Yeah, they just did one in Oregon. And then they've been fighting like a flu bug, so they
Are they
have.
gonna be good?
We're hoping so, yeah.
Oh, good.
We're trying to plan it, yeah, yeah.
Okay, we can do this again.
Yeah.
We're using up our
Okay.
time.
So we appreciate you, Randy, coming out.
Yeah, really good.